Oopala, 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 oopala. Hello, 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 hello. How are you? 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 Okay, I was gonna do the nvidia shield. You know the nvidia shield, the nvidia shield, the nvidia shield, nvidia shield, nvidia shield TV Pro. The box is over there. It's got some. I can clean it up. Maybe I can do something if it works. But we're gonna have the news, nvidia shield, the news. God.
GitHub, Mr. slash xCloud Shield, xCloud Beta unofficial app for the NVIDIA Shield Android TV. Playing Xbox Cloud Gaming directly on the box NVIDIA Shield TV in the best way. xCloud for NVIDIA Shield TV. Fix tip number 32. Now for launching games without issues, audio/video sync, latency, crash. You'll have to make a long press on button when the big Xbox logo appear after the rocket, till you see the game interface. I'm a French web and applications developer. I'm 42 years old and I am a father. I'm passionate about technology, including gaming and cloud gaming. The perspective that you can play any big game without having the hardware of the NASA fascinate me. So I decided it will be excite to working on some project about cloud gaming and level up at the same time Android and web apps development. If you appreciate my work and would like encourage me to continue all my projects. GitHub, Mr. slash xCloud Shield, xCloud Beta unofficial app for the NVIDIA Shield Android TV. Playing Xbox Cloud Gaming directly on the box NVIDIA Shield TV in the best way. xCloud for NVIDIA Shield TV. Fix tip number 32. Now for launching games without issues, audio/video sync, latency, crash. You'll have to make a long press on button when the big Xbox logo appear after the rocket, till you see the game interface. GitHub, Mr. slash xCloud Shield, xCloud Beta unofficial app for the NVIDIA Shield Android TV. Playing Xbox Cloud Gaming directly on the box NVIDIA Shield TV in the best way. xCloud for NVIDIA Shield TV. Fix tip number 32. Now for launching games without issues, audio/video sync, latency, crash. You'll have to make a long press on button when the big Xbox logo appear after the rocket, till you see the game interface. I'm a French web and applications developer. I'm 42 years old and I am a father. I'm passionate about technology, including gaming and cloud gaming. The perspective that you can play any big game without having the hardware of the NASA fascinate me. So I decided it will be excite to working on some project about cloud gaming and level up at the same time Android and web apps development. If you appreciate my work and would like encourage me to continue all my projects, you can make a donate. I need having some hardware devices for testing apps like a Chromecast or others, things like some subscriptions to online services. So if you would like that I level up for updating my apps, the donations are benefits. You can use this button PayPal for donations. xCloud app unofficial for NVIDIA Shield Android TV. Yes, I can say that. Welcome to my xCloud beta for Android TV. xCloud is the new cloud gaming platform by Microsoft Xbox. xCloud was on private beta during some months, and it's public now for all from the June 28, 2021 ago. Why I created xCloud app unofficial for Shield TV. I was a lucky beta tester of the xCloud web app for PC. It's executed directly from the browser on PC with the full HD resolution, 1080p. I was thinking that it will be awesome if I can enjoy it directly on my box TV, the NVIDIA Shield Pro 2019. So I decided to coding an application for my Shield TV for enjoying my games of my Game Pass Ultimate. It was a good idea and excited project for improve my skills in Android app development. Why I not use Sideode or browsers? The official Android app only exists for smartphones and tablets at the moment, so there is no official Android TV app at this time. You can only use Sideode with the smartphone app version, but the performance was not optimized at the start of the service, and the interface was not designed and integrated for the Android TV experience. In fact, the official Game Pass app has made a lot of improvements, and now the experience is better. But it was not the case 6 months ago, and my app was born from this frustrating situation. Despite the progress made by the official application Game Pass, I continue to having preferences for many aspects of my application, such as the interface, the smoothness of navigation, the overall image rendering, and a better experience in game for me. So this app is an alternative choice for having another experience Xbox cloud gaming directly in your Shield TV. I have a Shield TV Pro version 2019. All NVIDIA Shield TV box, 2015, 2017 to Pro 2019. Perhaps certain models of latest and powerful Fire CK, FireCube and Mi box. Perhaps certain latest models of TV. Globally all Android TV device powerful processor, APU, RAM, can run and provide the better experience. Certain users install it on powerful smartphone and have a very good experience too. But it's firstly for the Shield TV, the most powerful Android device, it's not a myth. This app is not supported for the Chromecast Google TV. A special project for this device will be coming here soon https://github.com/mrdis/xcloudcgtv. All controllers supported by the Shield TV officially. I recommend to use Xbox controllers because Zinput the mapping from Microsoft is the more integrated and optimized for all things about cloud gaming and Android by default. All Shield TV controllers version 2019 tested. Latest version Xbox One/Series X controller, tested Series X with latest update. Logitech F710 tested. The majority of Zinput controllers. New with TE version 4.4, the version 4.4 give now the priority to Xbox controllers for interacting in-game when multiple controllers are concerted at the same time. Others controllers are not disconnected, they can't interact in-game but only with the Android TV navigation. When the Xbox controller is disconnected, the other controller already connected can be used in-game automatically. Subscription to Game Pass Ultimate. You'll must have to be a Xbox member Ultimate for using cloud gaming features and this app. xCloud Beta app is based from the really important component, WebView. For the better experience, you'll must have to verify if this is up to date. Make a searching of term WebView in your Play Store if not up to date, make the upgrade before playing. Update your Xbox controller. If you have a persistent issue with your controller after having updating your WebView, you can test to update your Xbox controller. Microsoft with his next gen, and his new xCloud solution usually updating their devices and accessories. So, for the better experience, you'll have to updating your Xbox controller with the last version. You can do that directly in Windows 10 with a dedicated tool. https://support.xbox.com/nus/help/hardware network/controller/update Xbox wireless controller. No unofficial physical accessories connected. No issue when a physical keyboard or remote not official, not from nvidia, like Harmony are connected, the controller is blocked. Remapping the button /select. The major issue was the select back button acting in the Shield like a back to the home. The solution is on the new wiki. https://github.com/mrdis/xcloud/shield/wiki. Features. Full optimized for Android TV and the Shield TV. Full controller support in interface and games. Icon banner on home page and all menus of Android TV. No external browser required, all in full screen. No mouse required, just only use your controller. Performances of a WebView optimized for cloud gaming. No long and boring settings, click and play. Automatic language select, language used by default with your Shield. The major issue was the select back button acting in the Shield like a back to the home. The solution is on the new wiki https://github.com/mrdis/xcloud/shield/wiki. Technical issue, need support. https://github.com/mrdis/xcloud/shield/issues. You'll have to read the wiki for the better experience and comfort, there are cool tips. https://github.com/mrdis/xcloud/shield/wiki. You are welcome to tell me all your positive posts and how happy you are to enjoy the app here. The goal is to have a centralized place for it, now that the app has regular and satisfied users. Thanks in advance for your support. Number 13. All my projects are safe, but I don't want sharing my code here for personal reasons. It's my decision for now, but I can change my mind and organize a other method. But you can analyze my projects all you want with many tools like app tools and others. Results of security test https://www.firestyle.com/gui/file/b33006 Candela 86F6D3 Dalton 6166 C234 F6D3 B5 B00 B0 A4 A1 FD 614 F8428 DD6 E51 D49 DBEB 60. Online APK decompiler http://www.javadecompilers.com/apk. Special thanks to the #1 community about the cloud gaming. The CGX https://www.youtube.com/c/cloudgamingstream. Showcase video from the Cloud Gaming Extreme channel. A demo video of xCloud Beta app running and captured in my Shield TV 2019. Accessible from home. Accessible from menu. Interface of xCloud Beta in Shield TV, version 2022. The loading before playing in the cloud. Click and play your favorites Xbox games directly on your TV with the Shield TV.
Oh, this is the GitHub. They've got this xCloud Beta unofficial app for the nvidia Shield Android TV, playing Xbox Cloud Gaming directly on the Xbox nvidia Shield in the TV in the best way. That's in GitHub. And these people are doing it. These people are upgrading Shield to Pro Launcher 2020. How to check for app update on nvidia Shield. nvidia Shield TV app setup. Supercharge your nvidia Shield. nvidia Shield. All these things you can do to it. How to site load app to nvidia TV.
How to sideload apps to NVIDIA TV Shield Pro or /Shield Android TV. Hello. I am sure I am not the first one asking this, so sorry in advance for that. Anybody has a link to any guide to sideload apps to the NVIDIA Shield using USB? I want to downgrade my Plex client version to 8.29.x. Thanks. How to sideload apps to NVIDIA TV Shield Pro or /Shield Android TV. Hello. I am sure I am not the first one asking this, so sorry in advance for that. Anybody has a link to any guide to sideload apps to the NVIDIA Shield using USB? I want to downgrade my Plex client version to 8.29.x. Thanks. All things Shield TV, an Android streaming and gaming box by NVIDIA. Hey there, fellow Shielders. This is it. The good stuff. No BS. Go through this list and enjoy a better experience. For information about audio, see the. For information about video, see the. I present to you the best practices checklist. Get the connections right. Reach out for your TV and AVR spec sheets and make sure of what it supports. Direct connection to the ARPANET is best for audio because it allows for more PCM channels and higher sampling rates. But it may not allow for Dolby Vision pass-through. Decisions. TV preparation. Enable HDMI 2.0. Some brands will call this enhanced HDMI format, or deep color, or UHD colors, and some TVs will have a global toggle on top of the regular per port option. But if you get 4K at 30 max, that means you have a HDMI 1.4 bottleneck somewhere in your HDMI chain. Could be the TV, the soundbar AVR, or the HDMI switch if you have any. Disable TV post-processing. People looking for a pure cinematic experience will want to make sure all types of post-processing picture enhancements are disabled. Motion enhancement/compensation/clearness, noise reduction, take everything off. Filmmaker mode can be left on /auto. Consider enabling game mode. If your TV doesn't support ALM and you are a gamer, you should consider engaging your TV's game mode manually, which will completely stop all image post-processing and radically cut down the lag. Please note TVs will often use a different profile when HDR is engaged. A TV can be set to game mode but switch to HDR theater or whatever when HDR content is on. See if you can select HDR game instead and cut down the TV processing lag. Also note that this setting might be only accessible when HDR content is actually playing. Main Shield display settings. Enable Dolby Vision. All things Shield TV, an Android streaming and gaming box by nvidia. Hey there fellow Shielders. This is it. The good stuff. No BS. Go through this list and enjoy a better experience. For information about audio, see the. For information about video, see the. I present to you the best practices checklist. Get the connections right. Reach out for your TV and AVR spec sheets and make sure of what it supports. Direct connection to the opinión is best for audio because it allows for more PCM channels and higher sampling rates. But it may not allow for Dolby Vision pass-through. Decisions. TV preparation. Enable HDMI 2.0. Some brands will call this enhanced HDMI format, or deep color, or UHD colors, and some TVs will have a global toggle on top of the regular per port option. But if you get 4K at 30 max, that means you have a HDMI 1.4 bottleneck somewhere in your HDMI chain. Could be the TV, the soundbar AVR, or the HDMI switch if you have any. Disable TV post-processing. People looking for a pure cinematic experience will want to make sure all types of post-processing picture enhancements are disabled. Motion enhancement / compensation / clearness, noise reduction, take everything off. Filmmaker mode can be left on / auto. Consider enabling game mode. If your TV doesn't support ALM and you are a gamer, you should consider engaging your TV's game mode manually, which will completely stop all image post-processing and radically cut down the lag. Please note TVs will often use a different profile when HDR is engaged. A TV can be set to game mode but switch to HDR theater or whatever when HDR content is on. See if you can select HDR game instead and cut down the TV processing lag. Also note that this setting might be only accessible when HDR content is actually playing. Main Shield display settings. Enable Dolby Vision if your TV supports IT. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, display mode. Use 120Hz if your 1080p monitor TV supports IT. Using a 120Hz refresh rate can greatly reduce the amount of situations where the display might need to switch modes and blink. Unfortunately, official HDMI 2.0 modes cannot handle 4K at 120, and using 1080p on a 4K screen is quite a loss in resolution. But on a 1080p monitor / TV, go for it. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced display settings, custom display mode. Make sure auto colorimetry is enabled. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced display settings, match content color space. Make sure ALM is enabled if your TV supports IT. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced display settings, automatic game mode. Review the customize list menu. Keep in mind many apps like Xbox Game Pass are not categorized as games or are just not tagged appropriately and won't be enabled by default. So take a minute to review the list. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced display settings, customize game mode app list. Consider enabling player-led Dolby Vision. Some TVs will give buggy colors when, and only when, using regular TV-led Dolby Vision. Red push or just plain weird colors, in those cases, it is recommended to force the lesser pre-processed player-led Dolby Vision. Start by enabling developer options by going to Shield settings, device preferences, about build. Click build number 8 times, and congrats, you are now a dev. Now go to Shield settings, device preferences, developer options, default to low latency Dolby Vision when available. Main Shield audio settings. Consider enabling Dolby processing, Shield 2019 only. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced audio settings, Dolby processing. Very useful to avoid audio sync gaps and normalize the volume level across the board. An absolute must for users stuck with vanilla ARC, USB optical audio solutions. Vastly improved from past implementations where it would use matte frames and get in the way of pass-through rules. Now fully recommended, old users should give it another shot. More information on that in the Consider customize quick settings. Makes fast toggles much easier without deep diving into settings each time. There are a bunch of those shortcuts available. But audio options are the most handy because high-resolution audio and Dolby audio processing cannot be enabled at the same time. Shield settings, device preferences, system, customize quick settings. Review the available formats menu. 100% HDMI setup should be able to rely on the edit alone and stay on auto, but that information might be obfuscated by something on the HDMI chain, and will straight up not be available for users stuck with extractors, USB DACs, or optical solutions, so they will have to go manual and enable only what is supported by the decoder. Shield settings, device preferences, display and sound, advanced audio settings, available format. Kodi recommendations. Enable refresh rate switching. Kodi, system, cogwheel, enable expert media system, player, videos that adjust display refresh rate to on stop/start. Enable HDR10. Kodi, system, player, videos, processing, use display HDR capability should be enabled. Enable audio pass-through. Kodi, system audio pass-through, allow pass-through. If enabled, Kodi will pass the selected formats down to Shield. Other codecs will be transcoded into PCM channels, following the number of channels specified in Kodi's audio decoder section before being passed down to Shield, where Dolby processing will be applied if enabled. If disabled, Kodi will transcode everything to PCM channels in as many channels as specified in its audio decoder section before passing it down to Shield, where Dolby processing will then be applied if enabled. Shield 2015-2017 Sonar stuck on vanilla ARC or optical solutions. Kodi, system audio pass-through, Dolby Digital, AC3, capable receiver on. Kodi, system audio pass-through / enable Dolby Digital, AC3, transcoding on. If you want resolution switching and have the TV do the upscaling. Kodi, system display, whitelist, select every item in the list to make them green. Plex recommendations. Enable refresh rate switching. Plex settings, advanced, set refresh rate switching to on. Enable audio pass-through. Plex settings, advanced, pass-through, HDMI. HDMI means Plex will pass over every format down to Shield, where choices made in the available formats menu will apply. Optical means Plex will only pass down PCM 2.0, Dolby Digital and Vanilla Deets. Deets HD/Deets X tracks will be stripped of their lossless metadata. Everything else will be transcoded to Dolby Digital before being sent down to Shield, where choices made in the available formats menu will apply. If you want resolution switching and have the TV do the upscaling. Plex settings, advanced, set resolution switching to on. Refresh rate app recommendations. App-based OS-wide display mode switching. Most major streaming services will freak out when trying to switch display modes while content is playing, or even when the app is simply open. That's why I recommend using the refresh rate app to set a fixed startup display mode rather than any kind of on-the-fly frame rate matching solution. Install available via the Play Store directly on Shield, and open it. Select any app. Go to Startup Display Mode, and select a frame rate resolution matching the kind of content it delivers the most. Netflix, E+, HBO+, Amazon Prime. 4K at 24. European TV streaming services. 4K at 50. BBC iPlayer. Base Shield display mode must be set to 25 or 50 Hz for the app to work, so leave it alone here. Plex, Kodi, nvidia games, Moonlight. Leave them alone, they already support the API. With all that said, you should now be able to get the best of your Shield. Hopefully anyway. See you around. Does anyone know if the 4K upscaling works for streaming content, or is it just for physical media? R/Shield Android TV. It should work for any media played on the Shield that it can upscale. You can check if it's working by going into settings and AI upscaling while media is playing. It will say yes, no, and why. I really like the demo mode that lets you see the side-by-side, but I've only had it a couple weeks and it's still shiny and new for me. Do you think upscaling is better through the Shield or a TV that has inbuilt 4K upscaling? More replies. In my experience, 4K upscaling of physical media is absolutely mediocre. Those stupid discs don't even fit. You've got to grind up the disc and let it get sucked up by the fan. More replies. It seems to turn eyelids green as the people move when streaming live TV, so switched it off. I like to know how you play physical media. Good call. I don't have the 2019 version of the Shield. What I really should have said was TV versus Shield for 4K upscaling. More replies. It only scales content that is 720-30 FPS, but most is already 1080-60 FPS, so I hardly ever see the upscale used unless it's older shows. I'd imagine a TV would do better. I've never liked the AI upscaling. It just makes everything look more blocky and digitized. Play Store downloads taking too much time, r/Shield Android TV. I got the Shield Pro 2019 model a couple of months ago, and overall it works great. But I've been wondering if it's normal for apps to take more than 5 minutes to download and install through the Play Store with Wi-Fi, knowing that I have 400 megabit per second symmetrical internet. It seems odd. I just picked up my 2019 Pro a few weeks ago, and I'm hardwired into a gigabit connection. The speed test on the device was over 800 megabit per second download, and yet I noticed this exact same issue. Takes a couple minutes, or more, to download an app, and then usually it extracts and installs almost instantly. When I was setting things up originally, I was seriously confused and thought I dropped the connection or something midway through. I honestly have no other issues with this thing at all, and now that I've added a custom layout launcher over it, it's pretty much perfect. Other than the slow download speed. I agree, but it's been more than 30 minutes for 130 megabytes and still hasn't finished. This should be addressed somewhere at least. More replies. Play Store installations and updates have always been extremely slow on my Shield TV Pro 2019. My Chromecast Google TV has the same issue. Installing APKs from my PC through a file manager is fast and has no issues. Obviously, you can't update them via the Play Store afterwards. But I suspect Google's Play Store app is to blame. Yeah, I guess so, either that or nvidia's fault. More replies. I just updated about 6 apps and it took about 2 to 3 minutes. Try disabling Wi-Fi 6 on your router. More replies. It takes less than 10 minutes to update 10 or 12 on my Shield. Over Ethernet. I don't bother with updates unless it's for Tidal, Plex or Tivimit. The rest are not that important to me. And Plex I usually leave for a month after it's released because they release updates before they're fully tested. And wait for the user base to tell them where they've screwed up. I'm also trying to download Streamio RN and it's at 61% even though it's been over 10 minutes since it started. It used to be when I have a 500 millibar/s internet speed from Comcast back then in 2017 when I system upgrade or updating a bunch of software on my 2017 Shield TV via Wi-Fi. More replies. I meant to say turn off IPv6, not Wi-Fi 6. More replies.
Come on, what are you doing? I just read all that, please. Copy. Oh, here. Upa. Adidodong.
nvidia Shield TV Pro. Play Store installations and updates AI tool help. Search. Your everyday AI companion. Open your nvidia Shield TV's Google Play Store app and go to My Apps. Look through the apps on the list and spot which ones have an update available. Update the apps individually by selecting Update. You can also select Update All to do this in one go. When prompted, accept the permissions on the apps that ask. stealthoptional.com/hardware/how-to-up. What NVIDIA GeForce Now trademark sign 4K HDR cloud gaming service, compatible game controller or keyboard mouses. Webbeam hoping it's to be able to download apps like Shield TV Pro Streaming Media Player NVIDIA. Dolby Audio Support, Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby Atmos. DTX Surround Sound, Pass-Through over HDMI. High-resolution audio playback up to 24-bit/192 kHz over HDMI. Audio support AAC, AAC+, YAC+, MP3, WaveArmor, OGG Forbes, FLAC, PCM, WMA, WMA Pro, WMA Lossless, DD+ Decode, Dolby Atmos Decode, Dolby Truth. Pass-Through, DTX, Pass-Through and DTS HD, Pass-Through. Shield TV Pro Streaming Media Player NVIDIA. Dolby Audio Support, Dolby Digital Plus. GeForce Now, the next generation in cloud gaming, NVIDIA. The next generation in cloud gaming. Your games, your devices, RTX on. GeForce Now connects to digital PC game stores so you can stream the games you already own. Plus, game purchases you make on your personal store accounts will always stay with you. GeForce Now instantly transforms your laptop, desktop, Mac, TV, Android device, iPhone, or iPad into the powerful PC gaming rig you've always dreamed of. Our premium membership plans offer you fastest access to the highest performance GeForce RTX rigs for a high resolution, ultra-low latency, and competitive experience. Say goodbye to large game downloads, updates, and patches. All GeForce Now games are always up to date, so you can spend less time waiting and more time gaming. Shield TV, Advanced Android Gaming, NVIDIA. All Shield TV devices are able to play most of the games available to Android TV on the Google Play Store as well as play streamed games from GeForce Now. Advanced Android games are games developed for Shield TV by partners or by our own Lightspeed studios, including AAA titles converted to Shield. A smaller collection of advanced Android games require 3 GB of RAM and are only available on the following Shield TV models. Shield TV 2015/2017. Shield TV Pro 2015/2017/2019. This collection includes Borderlands 2, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, Contrast, Doom 3, Half-Life 2 Plus episodes, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Portal, Resident Evil 5, Super Mega Baseball, The Witness, Tomb Raider 2013, Ultimate Chicken Horse. This title not currently available on 2019 Shield TV Pro. Game emulators. The Shield TV 2019 supports most emulators available for Android TV devices. The Dolphin emulator requires 64-bit version of Android and is available on all 2015 and 2017 Shield TVs as well as the 2019.
Whoa, it fucked out, Hector.
Shield TV, microSD recommendations, NVIDIA. Updated 9/29/2021 1:12 p.m. Shield TV, what microSD card works with Shield TV, 2019. Match content frame rate on Shield TV, 2019, NVIDIA. The latest Shield experience adds a beta feature allowing users to set their display frame rate to match the content. For most users, this feature is not needed. However, if you are sensitive to jitters caused by mismatched frame rates, this feature may help. This feature is available for all Shield TV, but requires new Shield TV Remote or the Shield TV mobile app available on the Google Play Store or iOS App Store. This feature is in beta and may cause stability issues or may not be available on certain apps. Instructions. Add match frame rate beta setting to quick settings. Settings device preferences system customize quick settings. Launch app and begin playing video. Press the setting button to access quick settings. Video must be visible in the background. Select match frame rate beta. You may see brief screen blanking as your display refresh rate becomes adjusted. Your display refresh rate will automatically be reverted once playback has stopped. Important tips. Plex and Kodi already support automatic frame rate matching on Shield. This feature should not be used with those apps. Match frame rate can be assigned to be used with the customizable settings button. This should be used if you use this feature frequently. If an app does not allow video playback when quick settings is displayed. When watching live TV content, YouTube TV, Sling, etc., commercials may be played at a different refresh rate than the video, causing the display refresh rate to be refreshed. Emulator APK update NVIDIA Shield TV hacks, search. Data image /JPEG base 64 /9J /4X. GeForce Now APK for Android download. GeForce RTX powered cloud gaming. NVIDIA GeForce Now trademark sign transforms your device into a powerful PC gaming rig. Gamers can play PC titles they already own or purchase new games from popular digital stores like Steam, Epic Games Store, Ubisoft Connect, and EA. Access 1,500 plus games, with more released every GFN Thursday. The catalog also features many of the world's most played games, including 100 plus free-to-play titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, and more. Play with and against millions of other PC players, and never wait for downloads, installs, patches, or updates. Downloading the app will not give you access to the service. Streaming with GeForce Now requires a membership. Give PC gaming a try with our free membership. Or join one of our premium memberships for an enhanced experience including faster frame rates, RTX on, priority access to our gaming servers, and extended session lengths. To learn more about membership options and to sign up for GeForce Now, visit our page here, www.geforcenow.com. The GeForce Now app works with Android phones, tablets, and TV devices supporting OpenOS 2.0 with at least 1 GB of memory and Android 5.0L or later. GeForce Now works with most Chromebooks with 4 GB of RAM or more. For an optimal experience, we recommend 5 GHz Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection with at least 15 megabit per second. You can find a full list of system requirements and supported gamepads here. https://www.nvidia.com/NS/GeForce Now/system request/. What's new in the latest version 6.13.343245578? Last updated on May 29, 2024. various bug fixes and performance enhancements. For more details, go to Settings and select Release Highlights. GeForce Now Cloud Gaming, apps on Google Play. GeForce Now powered by ARPANET lets you transform your device into a powerful PC gaming rig. Play anywhere with cloud-powered gaming and level up the way you play. Gamers can play PC titles they already own or purchase new games from popular digital stores such as Steam, Epic Games Store, Ubisoft Connect, and EA. GeForce Now powered by ARPANET supports 1,500 plus games, including popular titles such as Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Destiny 2. With more titles arriving on the platform weekly. Downloading the app will not give you access to the service. A membership is required. Sign up to GeForce Now powered by ARPANET with a trial membership to see the power of cloud gaming in action for free. Or upgrade to a premium membership for an enhanced experience, including shorter queue times, extended session lengths, and at the priority tier. RTX technologies enabled. To learn more about membership options and to sign up for GeForce Now powered by ARPANET, visit our page here, https://cloud.gg. The GeForce Now powered by ARPANET app works with Android phones, tablets, and TV devices supporting OpenGL 2.0 with at least 1 GB of memory and Android 5.0 L or later. GeForce Now powered by ARPANET works with most Chromebooks with 4 GB of RAM or more. For an optimal experience, we recommend 5 GHz Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection with at least 15 megabit per second. You can find a complete list of system requirements and supported gamepads here, https://www.nvidia.com/ns/GeForce Now/system request/.
Is it on the Play Store?
Android Developers Blog, the first beta of Android 15. Hosted by Dave Burke, VP of Engineering. Today we're releasing the first beta of Android 15. With the progress we've made refining the features and stability of Android 15, it's time to open the experience up to both developers and early adopters, so you can now enroll any supported Pixel device here to get this and future Android 15 beta and feature drop beta updates over the air. Android 15 continues our work to build a platform that helps improve your productivity, give users a premium app experience, protect user privacy and security, and make your app accessible to as many people as possible, all in a vibrant and diverse ecosystem of devices, silicon partners, and carriers. Android delivers enhancements and new features year-round, and your feedback on the Android beta program plays a key role in helping Android continuously improve. The Android 15 developer site has lots more information about the beta, including downloads for Pixel and their release timeline. We're looking forward to hearing what you think, and thank you in advance for your continued help in making Android a platform that works for everyone. We'll have lots more to share as we move through the release cycle, and be sure to tune into Google I/O where you can dive deeper into topics that interest you. With over 100 sessions, workshops, code labs, and demos. Edge to Edge. Apps targeting Android 15 are displayed edge to edge by default in Android 15 devices. This means that apps no longer need to explicitly call window.set or fit system windows false or enable edge to show their content behind the system bars. Although we recommend continuing to call enable edge to get the edge-to-edge experience on earlier Android releases. To assist your app with going edge to edge, many of the Material 3 composable channel insets for you. Based on how the composables are placed in your app according to the material specifications. On the left, app targets SDK34 Android 14 and is not edge-to-edge on an Android 15 device. On the right, app targets SDK35 Android 15 and is edge-to-edge on an Android 15 device. Note the Material 3 top bar is automatically protecting the status bar, which would otherwise be transparent by default. The system bars are transparent or translucent and content will Android Developers Blog, the first beta of Android 15. Hosted by Dev Burke, VP of Engineering. Today we're releasing the first beta of Android 15. With the progress we've made refining the features and stability of Android 15, it's time to open the experience up to both developers and early adopters, so you can now enroll any supported Pixel device here to get this and future Android 15 beta and feature drop beta updates over the air. Android 15 continues our work to build a platform that helps improve your productivity, give users a premium app experience, protect user privacy and security, and make your app accessible to as many people as possible, all in a vibrant and diverse ecosystem of devices, silicon partners, and carriers. Android delivers enhancements and new features year-round, and your feedback on the Android beta program plays a key role in helping Android continuously improve. The Android 15 developer site has lots more information about the beta, including downloads for Pixel and their release timeline. We're looking forward to hearing what you think, and thank you in advance for your continued help in making Android a platform that works for everyone. We'll have lots more to share as we move through the release cycle, and be sure to tune into Google I/O where you can dive deeper into topics that interest you. With over 100 sessions, workshops, code labs, and demos. Edge to Edge. Apps targeting Android 15 are displayed edge to edge by default in Android 15 devices. This means that apps no longer need to explicitly call window.set or fit system windows false or enable edge to show their content behind the system bars. Although we recommend continuing to call enable edge to get the edge-to-edge experience on earlier Android releases. To assist your app with going edge to edge, many of the Material 3 composable channel insets for you. Based on how the composables are placed in your app according to the material specifications. On the left, app targets SDK34 Android 14 and is not edge-to-edge on an Android 15 device. On the right, app targets SDK35 Android 15 and is edge-to-edge on an Android 15 device. Note the Material 3 top bar is automatically protecting the status bar, which would otherwise be transparent by default. The system bars are transparent or translucent and content will draw behind by default. Refer to handle overlaps using insets views, or window insets in Composito. See how to prevent important touch targets from being hidden by the system bars. Smoother NFC experiences, Part 2. Android 15 is working to make the tap-to-pay experience more seamless and reliable while continuing to support Android's robust NFC app ecosystem. In addition to the Observe Mata changes from Android 15 Developer Preview 2, apps can now register a fingerprint on supported devices so they can be notified of polling loop activity, which allows for smooth operation with multiple NFC-aware applications. Inter-character justification. Starting with Android 15, text can be justified utilizing letter spacing by using justification mode inter-character. Inter-word justification was first introduced in Android O, but inter-character solves for languages that use the white space for segmentation, e.g. Chinese, Japanese, etc. Justification mode none. Justification mode inter-word. Justification mode inter-character. App archiving. Android and Google Play announced support for app archiving last year, allowing users to free up space by partially removing infrequently used apps from the device that were published using Android App Bundle on Google Play. Android 15 now includes OS-level support for app archiving and unarchiving, making it easier for all app stores to implement it. Apps with their request delete packages permission can call the package installer request archive method to request archiving a currently installed app package, which removes the APK and any cached files, but persists user data. Archived apps are returned as displayable apps through the launcher AppSupis. Users will see a UI treatment to highlight that those apps are archived. If a user taps on an archived app, the responsible installer will get a request town archivite, and the restoration process can be monitored by the action package it broadcast. App Managed Profiling. Android 15 includes the all-new Profiling Manager class, which allows you to collect profiling information from within your app. We're planning to wrap this with an Android Jetpack API that will simplify construction of profiling requests. But the core API will allow the collection of heap dumps, heap profiles, stack sampling, and more. It provides a callback to your app with a supplied tag to identify the output file, which is delivered to your app's files directory. The API does rate limiting to minimize the performance impact. Better Braille. In Android 15, we've made it possible for de facto support Braille displays that are using the HID standard over both USB and secure Bluetooth. This standard, much like the one used by mice and keyboards, will help Android support a wider range of Braille displays over time. Key management for end-to-end encryption. We are introducing the 2E Contact Keys Manager in Android 15, which facilitates end-to-end encryption, E2E, in your Android apps by providing an OS-level API for the storage of cryptographic public keys. The 2E Contact Keys Manager is designed to integrate with the Platform Contacts app to give users a centralized way to manage and verify their contacts' public keys. Secured background activity launches. Android 15 brings additional changes to prevent malicious background apps from bringing other apps to the foreground, elevating their privileges, and abusing user interaction, aiming to protect users from malicious apps and give them more control over their devices. Background activity launches have been restricted since Android 10. App compatibility. With Android 15 now in beta, we're opening up access to early adopter users as well as developers. So if you haven't yet tested your app for compatibility with Android 15, now is the time to do it. In the weeks ahead, you can expect more users to try your app on Android 15 and raise issues they find. To test for compatibility, install your published app on a device or emulator running Android 15 beta and work through all of your app's flows. Review the behavior changes to focus your testing. After you've resolved any issues, publish an update as soon as possible. To give you more time to plan for app compatibility work, we're letting you know our platform stability milestone well in advance. At this milestone, we'll deliver final SDK and DK APIs and also final internal APIs and app-facing system behaviors. We're expecting to reach platform stability in June 2024, and from that time you'll have several months before the official release to do your final testing. The release timeline details are here. Get started with Android 15. Today's beta release has everything you need to try the Android 15 features, test your apps, and give us feedback. Now that we've entered the beta phase, you can enroll any supported Pixel device here to get this and future Android beta updates over the air. If you don't have a Pixel device, you can use the 64-bit system images with the Android emulator in Android Studio. If you're already in the Android 14 QPR beta program on a supported device, or have installed the developer preview, you'll automatically get updated to Android 15 Beta 1. For the best development experience with Android 15, we recommend that you use the latest version of Android Studio Jellyfish or more recent Jellyfish Plus versions. Once you raise it up, here are some of the things you should do. Try the new features and APIs. Your feedback is critical during the early part of the developer preview and beta program. Report issues in our tracker on the feedback page. Test your current app for compatibility. Learn whether your app is affected by changes in Android 15. Install your app onto a device or emulator running Android 15 and extensively test it. We'll update the beta system images and SDK regularly throughout the Android 15 release cycle. Read more here. For complete information, visit the Android 15 developer site. Java and OpenJDK are trademarks or registered trademarks of Oracle and/or its affiliates. Android Developers Blog, Reduce Uninstalls for Your App with Auto Archive. Hosted by Cheng Lu and Lydia Gaiman, Product Managers, Google Play. Did you know that one of the main reasons users uninstall apps is to free up space? Today, whenever users try to install a new app on a nearly full device, they see a dialog that allows them to manually uninstall the app to make room. However, sometimes uninstalling a whole app, including all of the user's app data, just isn't necessary. To reduce unnecessary uninstalls and help users successfully install new apps, we are introducing a new feature, Auto Archive. Once a user opts in, Auto Archive can help them automatically free up to nearly 60% of an app's storage space without removing the app presence or user's data from the device. What is Auto Archive? Archived apps are visually indicated with cloud icons and remain on the user's device. Auto Archive is a new feature that allows users to free up space on their device without the need to completely uninstall an app. Once the user opts in, infrequently used apps will be partly removed from the device to save space, whilst the app icon and the user's personal app data will be preserved. When the user wants to start using the app again, they can simply tap to re-download it and pick up where they left off, as long as the app is still available on Google Play. Eligibility of Auto Archive. Auto Archive is only available for developers using the app bundle to publish their apps. If your app supports archiving, users will be less likely to see it surfaced amongst uninstall suggestions. How it works. Users can opt into Auto Archive in a few steps. The user tries to install a new app when the device is out of storage. A pop-up window appears asking if the user wants to enable Auto Archive. If the user opts in, unused apps on the user's device will be auto-archived to free up enough space for a new app request. Auto-archive is an easy way for users to manage their device storage, and a great way for developers to lower the likelihood of their apps being uninstalled. Release, Google Play Console. Release with confidence. Make your app launch a success with tools and strategies to help publish, manage, and distribute your app worldwide. Troubleshoot before launch. Robust testing tools and pre-launch reports help you identify technical issues so you can address them before your app is released. Quickly share app files and APKs with up to 100 testers for initial quality assurance checks using internal testing. Get early feedback on new or updated builds of your app from a wider set of trusted testers using closed testing. Gather private feedback from a large group by surfacing your app's test version on Google Play with open testing. Learn about your app's stability, performance, and more with pre-launch reports, or use Firebase Test Lab for additional options. Plan and prepare for app review times, as certain categories of apps may be subjected to longer review times. Stay up to date on Google Play policies to avoid violations and policy status. Minimize rollout risk. Use our built-in testing tools and staged rollouts to catch potential issues before they affect more users. Choose exactly when your app updates are published so you can align with ad campaigns or other launch events using managed publishing. Minimize risk with a stitch rollout to a percentage of users so you can monitor performance and feedback. Review your app's performance across a range of technical quality metrics including crash rate, NR rate, excessive wake-ups, and more with Android Vitals. Once your app is live, identify issues quickly with customized stability and performance metrics with Firebase Crashlytics and performance monitoring. Launch your store listing. Your app store listing is your first opportunity to make a good impression with users and is crucial for app discovery. Increase discoverability by optimizing your graphic assets, screenshots, and video to provide a clear and accurate representation of your app experience. Help Google Play promote your app properly by providing accurate categorization and content rating. Capture early consumer interest and accelerate launch performance with Opera registration campaign and app campaign to drive installs and in-app conversions. Maximize your reach with global audiences by localizing your app strings and store listings with our translation services. Appeal to specific user segments by tailoring your app store listing to countries that you select, or even your pre-registration campaign. With custom store listings, /B test different versions of your listing page amongst actual Google Play users by running store listing experiments. Review guidance for your first app launch. Get familiarized with our quality guidelines and developer policies to ensure a smooth launch. Big Fish gains successful pre-launch with open beta watch video. More resources. Get started. Find out how Play Console features can help you release with confidence. Find success with Google Play. Publish your apps and games to users around the world and grow your business on Google Play. Go to Play Console. Community Spotlight, Google Play Console. Guides for every topic. Find the right tools and resources for your goals. Learn more. Play Academy. Get online training, targeted for every stage of your business growth. Learn more. Insights. Find the most impactful reports and insights to drive your app growth. Learn more. Insights. Find the most impactful reports and insights to drive your app growth. Learn more. Case studies. See real-world stories and businesses thriving on Google Play. Learn more. #WherePlay. Learn about the global community building amazing apps on Google Play. Learn more. Copilot with Jeep 4. Received message. Certainly. Let's dive into Google Play Console, your gateway to managing and growing your Android apps and games. Rocket. Google Play Console is where you can publish your app or game on Google Play and monitor its performance. Here's what you can do with it. 1. Publish your app. Use the console to upload your app or game to Google Play. You'll be able to manage its listing, track downloads, and more. 2. Quality improvement. Test your app, improve its quality, and enhance user experience. The console provides tools to help you identify and fix issues. 3. Revenue generation. Monetize your app by launching a paid version, offering digital content, or setting up subscriptions. 4. User engagement. Keep users coming back with engagement tools and insights. Explore strategies to retain your audience. Getting started. 1. Sign up. If you haven't already, sign up for a Google Play Console account. You'll find step-by-step guidance on navigating the console and using its features. 2. Explore resources. Guides, learn best practices, case studies, and growth strategies for your business on Google Play. Community Spotlight. Discover stories and insights from app and game developers worldwide. Remember, Google Play Console empowers you to build, grow, and share your creations. Glowing star. If you have any specific questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask. Smiling face with smiling eyes message has links. Copilot with Jeep 4. Received message. Certainly. Let's break down your request. 1. Google Podcasts. If you're interested in podcasts, Google Podcasts is a great choice. It allows you to play the latest episodes from your favorite shows, explore personalized recommendations, and manage your listening activity. You can listen on multiple devices and even discover podcasts using Google Search and Google Assistant. 2. APKs and Play Console. If you're an Android developer, the Google Play Console is where you manage your app releases. You can add or test APK expansion files, update release types, and more. For example, to add an APK to your release, follow these steps. Open the Play Console. Select your app. Go to Release App Releases. Next to the release type you want to update, click Manage. Add the relevant APK version code and save. 3. Yahoo Sports. If you're into sports, the Yahoo Sports app covers football, baseball, basketball, college football, soccer, F1, golf, boxing, MMA, and more. It's a handy way to stay updated on your favorite sports, wherever you are. Feel free to explore these options and let me know if there's anything else I can assist you with. Smiling face with smiling eyes message has links. Releases Overview, Google Play Console. Monitor your builds to manage your releases at every stage of the process. Go to Play Console. See status by track. Check the availability of all active releases, whether in production or in open, closed, or internal testing. Monitor availability by country. Know which tracks are available in each country so you can execute your go-to-market with confidence. Dive into the details. View the details of each release by using direct links. Best practices. Create a release to test your app. Once you're confident with its performance, create a release in the production track to publish it to all users. Be familiar with the 3 types of publishing status to understand what happens after you submit your app. Once your app submission is approved, decide when to publish your app with managed publishing, instead of it going live immediately after approval. Please note that starting August 2021, new apps will be required to publish with the Android app bundle and Google Play. Find out more. Get an overview of the release management workflow, including testing tracks and features for making your app available to users on Google Play. Learn best practices so you can publish with confidence. More on releasing with confidence. Make your app launch a success with tools and strategies to help you publish, manage, and distribute your app worldwide. Learn more. Try Releases Overview. Monitor your builds to manage your releases at every stage of the process. Go to Play Console. A step-by-step guide to submitting your app to the Google Play Store by Tanishq Singhal, Medium. 3 minutes read. Feb 14, 2024. In today's digital age, mobile applications have become an integral part of our daily lives, serving a myriad of purposes from entertainment to productivity. If you've developed an app and are ready to share it with the world, one of the most important steps is submitting it to the Google Play Store, the largest app distribution platform for Android users worldwide. This article will provide a comprehensive guide on how to successfully submit app to Google Play Store. 1. Prepare your app. Before you begin the submission process, ensure that your app is thoroughly tested and ready for release. Address any bugs or issues, optimize its performance, and make sure it complies with Google Play's policies and guidelines. 2. Create a Google Play developer account. To submit an app to the Google Play Store, you'll need to have a Google Play developer account. If you don't already have one, you can sign up for an account on the Google Play Console website. 3. Set up your app listing. Log into your Google Play Console account and navigate to the All Apps section. Click on Create App to begin setting up your app listing. You'll be prompted to provide basic information such as the app's title, description, category, and language. 4. Upload your app bundle or APK. Prepare your app for release by generating a signed app bundle or APK Android package kit. The app bundle is recommended as it allows Google Play to generate optimized APKs for different device configurations. Upload your app bundle or APK file to the Google Play Console under the Release tab. 5. Fill out store listing details. Provide detailed information about your app, including a compelling description, screenshots, promotional graphics, and a catchy app icon. This information will be displayed on your app's listing page on the Google Play Store and will help attract potential users. 6. Set pricing and distribution. Decide whether you want to offer your app for free or set a price. You can also choose to offer in-app purchases or subscriptions. Additionally, select the countries or regions where you want your app to be available for download. 7. Configure app releases. Choose whether you want to release your app to a specific audience, such as alpha or beta testers, or publish it to the public immediately. You can also set up staged rollouts to gradually release your app to users over time. 8. Review and publish. Once you've filled out all the required information and completed the necessary setup steps, review your app listing to ensure everything is accurate and up to date. Then, click on the Publish button to submit your app to the Google Play Store for review. 9. Monitor your app's performance. After your app is published, keep an eye on its performance using the Google Play Console. Track metrics such as downloads, user ratings, reviews, and in-app purchases to gauge how well your app is doing and identify areas for improvement. 10. Update your app regularly. Continuously improve and update your app based on user feedback, bug reports, and evolving industry trends. Regular updates not only keep your app relevant but also help maintain user engagement and satisfaction. In conclusion, submitting your app to the Google Play Store is a straightforward process that involves careful planning, preparation, and attention to detail. By following the steps outlined in this guide, you can successfully publish your app and reach millions of Android users worldwide. Making your mark in the competitive world of mobile app development.
Whoa, what's this one do? Whoa, he stopped me from doing everything. Whoa, he stopped me. Somehow you can... Whoa, he stopped me.
Essential SEO Strategies for Mobile App Success by Tanishq Singhal, Medium. Tanishq Singhal. Follow. 14 minutes read. Dec 11, 2023. In the competitive world of mobile apps, effective search engine optimization, SEO, is key to boosting visibility and driving downloads. Here's a concise guide to integrating SEO into your mobile app development. 1. Keyword research. Identify relevant keywords for your app. 2. Optimize title and description. Craft a compelling title and description with target keywords. 3. App Store optimization. SEO, optimize your app for App Store algorithms.
Alright, well, we think we know about that.
X. Something went wrong. Try reloading. The Blockchain Odyssey, mobile app development companies at the helm of innovation at Lucas Rienher on Tumblr. Lucas Rienher follow AR and VR vanguards, how top mobile app development companies are shaping the augmented and virtual reality landscape in the ever-evolving realm of technology. Augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR, have emerged as transformative forces, reshaping TPH Box V4 demo #mobile app development company. Lucas Rienher follow AR and VR vanguards, how top mobile app development companies are shaping the augmented and virtual reality landscape. Tanishq Singhal. The ever-evolving realm of technology, augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR, have emerged as transformative forces, reshaping #mobile app development firm. Lucas Rienher follow Hejadoc, collaborative markdown notes, inclusive innovation, a dive into how leading mobile app development companies prioritize accessibdemo.hejadoc.org #mobile app development company. Lucas Rienher follow unveiling the secrets, how top app developers elevate accessibility for inclusive mobile experience in the ever-evolving landscape of mobile app development. Creating inclusive and accessible applications has become a pivotal focus for the industry's trailblazers. This article delves into the strategies employed by the best app developers to prioritize accessibility and design, showcasing their commitment to providing a seamless and enriching experience for users of all abilities. Inclusive design is a corner.
No. Go down. Last one. App development AI tools. Come on.
How to monetize AI in 2024. TechRadar. Image credit. Shutterstock/Samiazu. Artificial intelligence, AI, has rapidly become an integral part of many modern businesses. However, as AI continues to revolutionize the way we do things, the question of how to monetize it has become increasingly important. The good news is that there are a variety of ways you can monetize AI, from building AI-based solutions to selling data and analytics. We'll explore the various ways to monetize AI and provide practical steps to potentially capitalize on this rapidly growing technology trend. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a broad field of computer science and engineering focused on the development of machines and systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Latest videos from Techopedia. Such actions include learning, problem solving, perception, natural language processing, and decision making. AI systems are designed to simulate human cognitive functions, including perception, reasoning, and learning, using algorithms, statistical models, and computational techniques. It can be trained on large datasets to learn patterns and make predictions, and can improve its performance over time through feedback and experience. AI is used in a wide range of applications, including self-driving cars, virtual assistants, fraud detection, speech recognition, medical diagnosis, etc. How to use AI to make money. There are various ways to make money using AI. Here are 7 potential ways. Sign up to the Techopedia Pro newsletter to get all the top news, opinion, features, and guidance your business needs to succeed. Develop AI-powered products. You can create products or software that use AI to solve a specific problem or enhance a specific service. For example, you could create an AI chatbot that helps people book appointments or order food, or a smart home system that uses AI to adjust temperature, lighting, and security based on user behavior. You don't need to be a software engineer to develop an AI-powered product. You can hire a professional to do so while you oversee the other aspect of the business. Sell AI-powered services. AI can be used to enhance various services, such as customer support, cybersecurity, and fraud detection. If you are a programmer, you can create AI software that can offer customer support, fraud detection, and cybersecurity services. You must not be a computer scientist. Hiring a professional in this case can suffice. Develop AI-powered apps. You can develop mobile or web applications that use AI to provide a unique user experience or solve a specific problem. For example, an app that uses AI to provide personalized recommendations for products or services. Offer AI consulting services. As businesses increasingly adopt AI, they may need help understanding how to integrate it into their operations. You could offer consulting services to help businesses implement AI solutions and train their employees to use them effectively. Build AI-powered chatbots. Chatbots are becoming increasingly popular for customer service and support. You could build chatbots that use AI to answer common questions and provide assistance to customers. You can also use AI to offer live chat services on a website or software. Develop AI-powered e-commerce solutions. E-commerce is a growing industry, and AI can be used to enhance the customer experience. For example, an e-commerce platform that uses AI to personalize product recommendations and promotions for each customer. Sell AI-generated content. AI can be used to generate content such as articles, videos, and images. You could develop a platform that generates and sells this content to other businesses or individuals. You can create a YouTube channel and use AI-powered platforms to generate content and ideas. Note that while these are potential ways to make money using AI, success will depend on some factors such as your expertise, market demand, competition, and the type of AI tools you are using. Due diligence is highly advised. Final thought. AI is a rapidly growing field, and there are many opportunities to monetize it. By identifying a niche, building your expertise, and developing AI-powered products or services, you can make money while also providing value to your customers. Whether you choose to develop your own products or offer consulting services, there are many ways to turn your AI skills into a profitable venture. FAQs. What is the most profitable way to use AI? The most profitable way to use AI depends on your business model, goals, and areas where your business can benefit from automation and optimization. Generally, you can use AI in several ways, including improving customer experience, optimizing business processes, and enhancing decision-making. AI can help you personalize your marketing approach, analyze customer data, automate repetitive tasks, and even forecast trends and behavior. By streamlining these operations, you can potentially save costs, boost revenue and profits, and create a more efficient business model. However, the profitability of AI adoption depends on how well you can implement and fine-tune AI solutions to meet specific business needs. Remember that AI is just an assistant and needs human expertise to give an outstanding output. Are there any risks to making money using AI? There are risks to making money using AI. The primary ones are ethical and privacy concerns, technical limitations, and regulatory requirements. AI systems may fail to deliver desired results, or even create new vulnerabilities to data breaches and privacy infringements. It is important to ensure that you have clear guidelines and standards for AI development and use. That way, you avoid copyright and privacy issues in the future. How much money can you make with AI? The amount of money businesses can make with AI varies based on the company size, industry, and operating niche. However, research shows that AI adoption can lead to significant revenue growth and profitability. From my recent research, businesses that integrate AI into their operations can enhance their operating profit margins by up to 50% by reducing the amount of money spent on new hires. Also, AI can help you generate up to 20% more revenue from existing customers and tap into new markets, products, and services. However, the profitability of AI depends on how well you can integrate it into your business processes, the efficiency of the implementation, and the training and development of staff to work with AI. These are the best AI writers in the market. Techradar created this content as part of a paid partnership with Hostinger. The contents of this article are entirely independent and solely reflect the editorial opinion of Techradar. Ruby has been a freelance technology writer for over 4 years and has a passion for information technology and the internet in its entirety. She has a wide range of specialities including web hosting, streaming, Firestick, Kodi, and APKS, VPN information technology, and affiliate marketing. Ruby is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Commerce from the University of the Philippines and regularly codes in her free time. The best AI phone 2024. Cutting edge phones with artificial intelligence. Techradar. Best AI phones. Quick menu. The best AI phone is a phone with the most advanced hardware, the latest software, and the newest features you'll find on a mobile device. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever you call it, is the biggest thing to happen to smartphones since foldable displays. And it will be even bigger before long. Google is the latest Gemini AI on its Pixel 8 Pro and the Pixel 8 family. Samsung offers Galaxy Eye on its Galaxy S24 lineup. Older Pixel and Galaxy phones, like the Pixel Fold and the Galaxy Z foldable phones, have received select AI features, but not the whole package. Apple recently announced that its AI, Apple Intelligence, is coming to devised iPhones, including the iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max. If you had any doubt that AI is the next big thing on smartphones, Apple put that doubt to rest. These AI phones are improving dramatically, so keep an eye on this list, especially as we approach the launch of iOS 18 and Apple Intelligence on the iPhone. Until then, here are the best AI phones for photography, writing, answering questions, and everything you can imagine. Latest videos from TechRadar. Quick list. Best overall. The Pixel 8 Pro is the smartphone leader for the latest AI models from Google, so if you want to see what all the fuss is about and prepare for the future, check out the latest Pro model. Read more below. Best AI writing. 2. Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus. Samsung's Galaxy AI does the best job offering writing style changes and suggestions, and the S24 Plus has a bigger, sharper screen that makes typing and messaging easier to read. Read more below. Best AI camera. 3. Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. The S24 Ultra is legendary for its camera features, and AI plays a big part. When you take that stunning moon photo, AI recognizes the scene and adjusts your settings to make sure it's perfect. Read more below. Best AI photo editing. Google's Photo on Blur, Magic Editor, and the new Audio Eraser are the best AI editing tools for photos and videos. And the Pixel 8 also has great cameras for the right price, making this our photo editing favorite. Read more below. Best AI voice assistant. Bixby on the Samsung Galaxy S24 is the best voice assistant you'll find on any smartphone today, much better than today's Siri. And it will likely get even better as Samsung adds more Galaxy AI. Read more below. Best AI bargain. The Pixel 8 will get 7 years of software updates, which hopefully include 7 years of AI advancements. Sound too good to be true? For this low price, you can take the risk. Read more below. The best AI phone 2024. Why you can trust TechRadar. We spend hours testing every product or service we review, so you can be sure you're buying the best. Find out more about how we test. The best overall AI phone. The best overall AI phone. Specifications. Release date October 2023. Weight 213 g. Dimensions 162.6 x 76.5 x 8.8 millimeters. OS Android 14. Screen size 6.7 inch. Resolution 1344 x 2992. CPU Google Tensor G3. RAM 12 GB. Storage 128 GB / 256 GB / 512 GB / 1 TB. Battery 5050 mAh. Rear camera 50 MP plus 48 MP plus 48 MP. Front camera 10.5 MP. Reasons to buy. Plus. Google Gemini Advanced replaces Assistant Plus. Best AI photo editing tools in Google Photos Plus. Amazing 7 years of AI updates coming. Reasons to avoid.
So what happened? All these phones are like, say, let's just like, oh, it's in Australia. Look, Optus and all this. What the hell? Google Pixel 8. So can you go up the top? Okay. Like that, is it? Pro. Without just being fucked with. I knew it. Keeps doing that, Hector.
Google shows off the Pixel 8 Pro in extensive detail, confirming key features. TechRadar. The Google Pixel 7 Pro image credit, future, Philip Byrne. Not long ago, Google accidentally posted a marketing image showing the Pixel 8 Pro, and now the company seems to have made another similar but even bigger mistake, as the upcoming handset was briefly visible in Google's phone simulator. This section of Google's site lets you see a detailed image of its phones from any angle and highlights key features of them. So it revealed a lot about the Pixel 8 Pro. Spotted initially by X-user at J0S3RL with imagery shared by @Mishowerman. We can see, for example, that
It's already out, isn't it? Don't lie, man. You're making it up, then it's not. What are you making up? Leak. That's silly. On October? When is October?
the Google Pixel 8 is officially landing on October 4th, Techopedia. The Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro image credit, future, Alex Walker Todd. We always expected to see the Google Pixel 8 launch in October, but now we know exactly when, as Google has announced that it's holding an event on Wednesday, October 4th, where we'll see the latest additions to the company's Pixel portfolio of devices. That's the wording used in the invite, and while the Pixel 8 isn't mentioned by name, Google has sneakily included the number 8 in a post about the event, saying the W8 is almost over. So we're almost certain the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro will be in attendance, especially as new Pixel phones almost always land in October of their release years. There aren't any other clues that we can see in the post, though there is an amusing video making fun of the iPhone 15 likely getting USB-C at last. However, we'd guess that it won't just be the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro that we see at this event. Latest videos from TechRadar. The mention of Pixel portfolio of devices leaves room for other Pixel gadgets, and we're specifically expecting to see the Pixel Watch 2 soon. So there's a good chance that will make an appearance? What we almost certainly won't see is the Pixel Fold 2, the Pixel Tablet 2, or the Pixel Ada, as the current models all launched too recently for that. A new chipset and a new sensor. Still, there should be plenty to get excited about, as leaks suggest the Pixel 8 line will have upgraded cameras and a more powerful chipset, while the Pixel 8 Pro might additionally sport a temperature sensor. So these will likely rank high among the best Pixel phones, and perhaps even among the best phones period. The launch event is being held in New York. But of course, you'll be able to tune in online too, with Google typically streaming its launches live over YouTube and direct from its online store. Sign up for breaking news, reviews, opinion, top tech deals, and more. It kicks off at 10 a.m. ET/7 a.m. PT/3 p.m. BST on October 4th, which is 1 a.m. on October 5th for those in Australia. But if you can't tune in live, don't worry, the event will surely remain streamable after the fact, and we'll be covering the launch in full on TechRadar. So simply head back here for all the announcements and our expert analysis. You might also like Google Pixel 8, latest news, rumors and everything we know so far. Google Pixel 8a, latest news, rumors and everything we know so far. Google has just accidentally shown off the Pixel 8 Pro. James is a freelance phones, tablets and wearables writer and sub-editor at TechRadar. He has a love for everything smart, from watches to lights, and can often be found arguing with AI assistants or drowning in the latest apps. James also contributes to 3gco.uk, 4gco.uk and 5gco.uk and has written for T3, Digital Camera World, Clarity Media and others, with work on the web, in print and on TV.
What happened? What happened? Explode another. Nope. No, that's not right, is it? Yeah.
So why don't you walk us through this and maybe tell us like your favorite thing about.
I think my favorite thing about the camera is that Samsung, like with the display, they changed the processing a bit to make things look more natural. So like the display, the colors aren't as saturated and all that stuff, right? It's the same thing with the pictures from the camera. The pictures from the camera are not as saturated. They're not as processed. Like if you look in my camera review in some of the comparisons between the S23 Ultra and the S24 Ultra, you can find more, we'll call it fine detail in some of the S23 Ultra pictures, but it's kind of fake. And it's fake because Samsung super processes its photos typically. And you end up getting really over sharpened stuff. So on like the edges of, if you're taking a picture of a flower, on the edges of the leaf, it'll be real funky looking, right? Because they used a lot of processing to make it look sharper than it actually is. And that doesn't happen on the S24 Ultra. And I really like that.
A little bit more natural.
Yes, and to me, that's always been one of the main reasons I like Pixel phones, because when you take a picture with a Pixel, it's typically how it looked like with your eyes. Like it's not this crazy vibrant thing. And I know some people like that, but I hate that. And that's why I give Pixel cameras higher ratings, because they're correct, right? And they have gone, Samsung has gone and sort of sided on that metric of having more accurate colors, having less processing. Like these look like photos that come from a real camera rather than a smartphone trying to look like a real camera. Telephoto-wise, telephoto camera is improved all around. I was really impressed because I absolutely did not believe that changing to a 5x telephoto from a 10x was going to be any good at all. But I'm happy to report I was wrong.
Yeah, that's interesting because Samsung is like branding this phone as like how are they branding it? Like a quad I don't know, like something weird.
Yeah, quad telephoto or whatever.
Yeah, quad telephoto, which is
it's very interesting. I mean, you know,
that they do highlight the 10x zoom. Right. I guess because it's so improved by the AI and whatnot, and I guess because of the resolution, it helps to retain the quality of the 10x zoom when you're zooming in. I don't know.
Right. And let's see. So I think something in that regard that was really interesting was that they say up to 10x is optical quality, which I will agree. It absolutely looks better than the S23 Ultra up to 10x. You know, whatever, it does. Beyond 10x, it's kind of a mix. I would say they sort of trade blows up to 30x. And then beyond that, typically the S23 Ultra wins. But if we're going to be real, I can't say any picture from any phone beyond 30x is really worth using unless you're just like, oh, like I can't even think of a niche subject right now to pick. But it's really niche, right? To go beyond that and get anything decent. So I think Samsung improved the areas where it actually could improve versus trying to focus on that, 30 to 100x space zoom thing. My biggest problem is that Samsung still struggles capturing motion. I don't understand why. All right, I will continue to recommend a Pixel to any parent who has young kids, because this just doesn't take good pictures of kids who are moving around and people with pets. Same kind of thing. Like if you take lots of pictures of your pets, maybe get a Pixel. I really, if that's the most important thing for you, the Pixel still wins. But if anything else is more important, this is a better camera.
Now, have you tried, because one of the things I recommend that I talked about in my review is downloading the camera assistant app. Have you used it on the S24 Ultra yet?
Yeah, I tried in my motion section in the review. Okay. The second picture where my son's wearing a red shirt, I turned all the processing off using that. And it still didn't make any difference.
You had it prioritize speed over focus or whatever.
Right, exactly. And it just, let me click through them. Like, I don't know. I don't really see any notable difference between the two photos with the processing normal and the processing off. Like if you look at the first photo, that's with all the processing on. You can actually see outside my front window. And if you go to the third photo, which is that one where I turned everything off, the front window is just a big old white bloomy mess, right? Like I can tell it's not doing the extra processing. But him jumping off the couch doesn't look any better.
What Samsung really needs to focus on improving, like, I mean, we have the camera quality.
I feel like maybe it's just not something that they care about.
It should be, because it just makes it so hard to like get a good photo. Like, I mean, sure, when the object is static, or when the subject is static, sure, but like, not everyone is going to sit still for a million hours while your phone tries to take and process the photo. Like, especially
exactly.
And you could be missing out on such a great picture of Jiggy, for example.
I know, because he just moves so much.
And he has all that fur and hair, or whatever he has.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, this is going to vary from person to person, right?
Let's talk about the S24 Plus, and then I kind of just like, I don't want to talk about Samsung anymore. Okay, so Derek, you did the initial review of the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus. I love your headline. It's called Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus Initial Review, No Longer the Awkward Middle Child. And you basically gave this phone a 4 out of 5 stars. Pros include iPhone-like design. I agree. That's what I liked about it. Small bezels, the return of the QHD Plus display, some fun AI features, 7-year update promise, starts with more RAM, great performance, good battery life. Cons include many AI features tied to Samsung apps. Sharp corners can be painful in hand. Auto HDR requires camera assistant app and same camera hardware. So, yeah, interesting. Talk to us about it. Walk us through.
Yeah, so I like the design a lot. It's very flat. Like the frame is now, the frame is now completely flat. Samsung has been, like kind of like the S24 Ultra, like display has been getting flatter. Now the frames each year for the past couple of years have been getting flatter as well. And so now it looks very, like if I just set it down on its back with the display off, I would almost mistake this for an iPhone. And I'm not going to lie, I like that. Like I feel like this is what it's like to hold an iPhone, and I'm not mad at it. I like the design a lot. I like the back. The frame is very like, I guess it's like a brushed aluminum or something, but I just like how it feels. Yeah, and like for the display, the bezels seem a bit smaller. Like I said, it's now a QHD resolution, which hasn't been on the Plus since I think the S20 Plus. And then Samsung after that moved to Full HD Plus resolution. So it's nice that Samsung brought back the higher resolution option. I don't know. I overall, I enjoy this phone a lot. I do, like when we were speaking about the AI features, I really like the translation features. I use it a lot because I have a lot of friends abroad. And I mean, they speak English, but now I can talk to them in their native languages and they seem to understand it pretty well. One of my friends in particular, one said that he really liked my Italian or something. And I was like, well, I don't speak Italian, but and then another one who I've known for many, many years. And he was like, oh, I see like your Spanish has improved a lot. And I didn't say anything at first. And I was like, well, it's not me. I mean, I do speak Spanish pretty well, but and I read and write it pretty well, like better than I speak it, but like I'm not completely fluent. So
the thing I think about when it comes to these translation tools is I just always find it interesting whenever they say, oh yeah, like now you can like talk to whoever, whatever. But the thing too is like one that you were mentioning how like, sometimes it was picking up like on formal terms or like picking up on words that were just like not used colloquially. I also think that can also make someone feel offended in a culture if you are going to a culture where they have specific like intonations or specific ways of speaking. Like I recently learned that in Korean, if you are addressing someone who you're not like related to or you're not in a relationship with, you have like a formal way of speaking to them. And then, you know, if you're in a relationship with someone, you can almost like remove that formality and you can be like, oh, let's talk like informally. But apparently that sort of way of speaking doesn't get translated in subtitles. So if you're watching like a K-drama or something and that happens, that sort of gets lost in translation. And I feel like a similar situation happens with AI translating tools where they try to make it as realistic as possible, but there's still a level of loss in translation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, when it comes to like the written text, I feel like it does a little better. I haven't really like it does seem a little formal, yes, and sometimes like I can tell I'm like I'll have to edit it myself. I'm like, all right, this sounds a little like, let me tone this down a bit. But I still really like, I don't know, I haven't really had any complaints when it comes to like the written text, because it'll just translate what you're writing automatically and also translate your conversation, which I love, because you could see the
ton of wires and it was super awkward, right? And now they have a headset that looks nice. It's heavy, but you know, it's still wearable. They have a kind of vision for what it wants to be, but the hardware doesn't.
A robocaller just got busted for cloning President Biden's voice and is getting charged $6 million for essentially everything that went down. I'm going to be covering all that in the podcast. Let's get into it. So, Steve Kramer is a political consultant, and he has now been fined $6 million by the FCC for using voice AI cloning technology to essentially impersonate President Biden, do a bunch of illegal robocalls during the New Hampshire primary election. Now, the robocalls were essentially intended to trick voters by using a cloned voice to essentially, I think they gave a bunch of like false instructions not to vote in the upcoming primary. It's kind of, I don't know, this is kind of stupid. In America, we have just, I feel like, really dumb kind of political stuff that goes on. Last election, this election, I feel like I've seen a ton of stories like this. If a presidential candidate calls you pretending to be President Biden and tells you not to vote, I mean, maybe some really old people got tricked. I don't really know. I mean, I think, first of all, it's just like dumb. No one actually believes that President Biden actually called you, in my opinion. But I mean, I could be wrong. And then why he would tell you not to vote seems kind of ridiculous. But regardless of all of this, obviously it's illegal to impersonate someone, especially a president. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going down here. So Kramer, he did a collaboration with Life Corporation and a telecom company, which was called Lingo. Both of them were previously charged with illegal robocalls, but he used them to essentially execute the scheme. Now, I'm not sure if they're just kind of like one of those companies gets used because they got lax rules, or if the leadership there actually knows what's going on, so they kind of just like let things slide. I think there's probably legal cases being made for both of them, and I don't want to speculate, right? Don't sue me for accusing them. But, I mean, it's probably a company that's kind of letting things slide. That's my vibe on it, but, you know. So, right now, the FCC's actions obviously seem a little bit severe, like $6 million. But I think what they're trying to do here is set a precedent and, you know, convince other people not to do it, not to misuse AI for voter suppression or fraud. I think they did this, like this case happened pretty quick after it was discovered and it was kind of going through. So I think with a election cycle coming up, they don't really want this to happen. And I also have heard a ton of AI companies talk about the fact that they don't want their AI tools used for like election, you know, fraud. So I think they're going to try to stay out of this as well. I'll be curious to see kind of where it goes as the election goes forward. So the FCC's actions, obviously, a lot of people said they're severe. I think they're pretty useful. But following this whole case, the FCC officially said that the use of AI-generated voices in robocalls is illegal. They said this back in February, but right now they are closing a loophole in existing laws about artificial elements in these communications, because up until now, I think politicians have been using different artificial elements. Well, that wasn't necessarily artificial voices or artificial intelligence. And so now they're closing that loophole. You're not allowed to use artificial elements, and it's got to be like an actual voice, I'm assuming, that got recorded for these like auto robocall things are something that all the political parties use, but I think they just don't want it to be a voice clone of Biden and used by his opponents. Obviously, you can see the issues here. So, well, the FCC, they can propose fines. They also rely on local or federal law enforcement to pursue criminal charges. Currently, there's no criminal charges that have been brought against Kramer or his collaborators. Now, I think that it's like definitely a scammy, kind of scummy thing to do. But at the end of the day, I really fail to think that it had like a massive impact having a fake President Biden call you and tell you not to vote. Pretty much Biden already had it in the bag as the Democratic nominee. So essentially this has like no impact on anything, but I think it's probably a good case to come up and be like, look, this is not what we should be doing. And I think they want to get on this ahead of the presidential election to be like, look, no parties should actually be doing this. And the other thing is, a lot of times what you see in this, whether it comes from like the actual Biden campaign or the actual Trump campaign, who are going to be the two, like people campaigning in this next election cycle, I think it's irrelevant because a lot of times they'll all have plausible deniability being like, look, we didn't tell these people to do it. It's just some like rogue campaign people that were doing it. Whether it comes from them or not, I think the FCC putting down this law, just saying, look, this is not the way we're going to run things, is probably for the best. So I think that's cool. Loyen Egal, who's the chief of the FCC's Enforcement Bureau, said, quote, we will act swiftly and decisively to ensure that bad actors cannot use U.S. telecommunications networks to facilitate the misuse of generative AI technology to interfere with elections, defraud consumers, or compromise sensitive data. Now, I'm gonna just, give my like one, conspiracy theory or like straw man to this whole thing, which is maybe there's some uses where this would be good. I'm trying to think. Obviously, you don't want to trick people into President Biden calling them, but maybe. So the big thing that I think might be overreach is here they're like blocking it at not just like we're going to fine you if you do it or get you in trouble, but they're blocking it at a telecommunications level, meaning the telecommunications company is in charge of it. And maybe you could see a point at like a time in the future where like some company or campaign is like trying to get a message out to people about something, and then the government is like shuts it down because like through the telecommunications networks through some sort of overreach of government. I don't know. I'm trying to see like what the downsides of this legislation would be. So, or it's not even legislation. It doesn't go through the Senate. It's a bureaucratic decision that no one voted on. But anyways, maybe there's pros and cons. I mean, obviously, I think that there's mostly big pros here, but with every piece of legislation, there's government overreach that always seems to pop up. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out in the future. And I'll keep you up to date on all of that. If you enjoyed the episode, there is a new AI tool on the block. So we have seen Humane kind of flounder. We've seen Rabbit get completely roasted. There's a new player, and it is Ilio. They think that generative AI earbuds are going to succeed where everyone else has kind of failed and got super roasted. So we're going to dive into all of that on the podcast today. Let's get into it. So right now we know that Humane's co-founders, they put their startup on the market. They've actually listed, or they're talking about selling Humane at I think $1 billion valuation, but this is just a month after they launched their first product, the AI pin. This is not good optics for them. So there's a bunch of competition right now. So Humane's main competitor was the Rabbit R1. So the Humane pin, just pinned on your shirt with a magnet. The Rabbit R1 was like a little device you held, and it was like, we built our own device with our own AI models. Anyways, turns out it's just an Android phone running ChatGPT on it. Everyone kind of did a tear down, and they got super roasted. Not because it's bad, but because they said they had their own AI model, and it was their own device, and it was just an Android running ChatGPT. They faced a bunch of, backlash and stuff, but at the end of the day, they were... they just, even though it was just like an app, essentially, it was still only $200. That's not a big deal. The Humane pin was a little bit harder of a pill to swallow because it's like $700 for this pin, and it only lasted like a 4-hour or 3-hour battery life, which if you're going to wear it all day is kind of useless. In any case, all of the anticipation around the AI pin and the Rabbit R1, I think show that there is a strong interest in some new innovative devices, hardware specifically, that use LLMs. There's a lot of pre-orders, there's a lot of people talking about it. They've just been disappointed by the products that have come out so far. So there's a new company on the block called Ilio. They're the new hype product. We're going to see, are they hype or are they legit? But they're essentially developing a new generative AI device, which is integrated into Bluetooth earbuds. And they're going to be building on the similar success of company technology like Alexa and Siri. And essentially, you're going to have these earbuds. You'll be able to tap them, talk to the AI right there in your ear. I have some skepticism and questions about this. I'm going to get into that, but first I want to tell you a little bit about the company. So Ilio was actually formed within Google's Alphabet. They have like a moonshot factory. So this was actually spun off in 2021. Google, of course, was its first investor, but they don't hold a board seat in the company. But this is where it's coming from, which I think actually gives it some credibility. If they're coming out of Google, it's probably good. And also you can see Google's incentive for investing and trying to make this successful is all the Android devices. Apple's got their AirPods. I'm sure Google would love like a Google in-house version of the AirPods, but maybe they're like super cool, right? So Ilio's first product was a $1,650 VAD Pro. This was a really sophisticated in-ear studio reference monitor with head tracking. It was designed for spatial audio mixes and digital audio workstations. So really like high def, high quality, but kind of expensive equipment here. So the Ilio 1, which is kind of this new thing that they're touting, is going to be priced at $600, cough, cough, similar to the AI pin. And that's just for the Wi-Fi model. If you want the one with like cell data embedded into it, it's $700. And I think this is kind of emphasizing they're really going for a premium audio quality and functionality. There is no need for a subscription fee though. So this is something that I think is kind of interesting that they're going to be having here is you get these earbuds, no subscription fee on them. Interesting. The Humane pin was $700 and you had a subscription fee. So it'll be interesting to see how they eat the cost because they need to continue to run AI models unless they figured out some magic way to fit an AI model into the tiny little Bluetooth earbud. So I'll be curious to see where that goes. Now, my biggest criticism of this device in general is like, what's the difference between this and, for example, Apple's AirPods, and you just like are running off of your phone? So I guess if you have AirPods, you got to pick up your phone and tap the app and talk. But I'm pretty sure Alexa's or Siri is going to embed ChatGPT into it pretty soon here, or whatever Apple comes up with the AI. So at that point, you'll just be able to say, hey, Siri, blah, 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 to your phone, and your AirPods will just tell you about it. I guess the difference is you wouldn't need to pull your phone out of your pocket, hands-free. So I guess, okay, I'm talking myself out of my criticism. So there's some use cases where pulling out your phone is inconvenient and maybe it's in your pocket. So maybe these would be useful in those situations. We'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting device, and I'm all for new hardware devices. I know the other ones have gotten a lot of criticism, but like I think people should continue to try innovating. It's super cool when you have this innovation. So I'm excited to see whatever happens in this space there. There was a quote by Jason Ruglo. He's actually the Ilio founder. He said, I think the key is delivering value immediately, right out of the box, focusing on the features you're going to ship with. We believe this is a platform, and we think that there are going to be millions of what we call audio first apps, these AU apps, but people don't buy platforms, they buy products that do super useful stuff for them. So just on the sound isolation, the comfort, the music quality alone, we think that there's a very large market for these devices. Now, I think they've taken a really smart approach here. Instead of just being like, this is a, rabbit device that answers your AI questions, these things, they're trying to make them good just on their own feet, right? They're like, these things are amazing headphones. They fit in your ear really comfortably. They have incredible quality. So they're trying to make the quality of the product just an amazing pair of headphones that just so happens to have AI built into them. I think this is the right approach. If you actually want to get consumers on board with them, you can imagine the alternative is like, it's really good AI, but it's like uncomfortable. People just wouldn't buy it, right? So I think they have a good shot here. I'm curious to see how this goes. It is premium. It is expensive. And I think that's kind of a turnoff. So there's some sort of line where everyone wants to be just like Apple, but at some point you like can't be too premium perhaps. In any case, I think it's interesting. I'll keep you up to date on how this rolls out and how the adoption is when this happens, what the reviews are. But if you enjoyed the episode today, make sure to leave a review of this podcast. I really, really would appreciate your feedback, your reviews over on Apple or Spotify. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like the video so other people can find the video. Have big news out of China and AI. So China's $47 billion semiconductor fund that they've just put together right now is putting a lot of, questions and comments around chip sovereignty that people are talking about. So we recently had another interesting headline where people were saying Sam Altman was trying to raise like $7 trillion to do chip manufacturing all over the world, and he was going to make different world governments pay for these like essentially chip manufacturing hubs set up by Taiwan Semiconductor Company. Now, he got on a podcast recently and was like, I don't know where they got that $7 trillion number from. That's crazy. But the way he said it seemed very much like the way Steve Jobs or Elon Musk deny like a big rumor right before it actually gets confirmed. I remember listening to a podcast where this guy was like talking about Steve Jobs and was like, wouldn't it be amazing if you had a phone? And then Steve Jobs is like, yeah, we did a bunch of research and it turns out nobody actually wants like their iPod Touch to be on a phone. So that's ridiculous. And then like 2 weeks later, they announced the iPhone. So he was totally just bluffing the guy. I get that vibe with Sam Altman and this big chip thing. And also Elon Musk, I swear, recently did this when everyone was like, Elon Musk is going to raise $1 billion for XAI. And he's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You're crazy. And then like a few days ago, he said they raised $6 billion. So people don't like rumors to get out early, and so they deny them a lot of time. I wonder what level that's happening with Sam Altman. But evidently, China has taken notice and said, look, this is a big deal because they've just created a $47 billion sovereign chip fund where they're essentially funding chips built in China. This is not a shocker. We've had a bunch of tension between America and China, where America essentially said, look, like companies like nvidia, they're like, look, you can't even manufacture some of these AI, these high-powered chips that could be used in AI because we want America to be the number one, and nvidia's like, okay, fine. So they gave China like the weaker chips. They use some software, and China used some software to try to get around this, make them just as powerful. People debate if that was actually possible. In any case, this is a big deal, and China obviously doesn't want to get left behind in everything going on. So they've been doing a lot of stuff. Right now, a lot of people are calling this the Big Fund. It's launched its third round, which is Big Fund 3, with 344 billion yuan, which is, $47 billion, larger than its last two predecessors. So the Big Fund 3 right now is trying to help China boost their semiconductor industry and essentially reduce reliance on other countries, cough, cough, Taiwan, who they might invade, and America. So really, I think they're trying to emphasize some of their self-sufficiency in semiconductor production, because even if China decides like, hey, let's just go take over Taiwan and grab all that, I think there's been a bunch of rumors recently where some of the leadership over at TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Company, said they have like kill switches in the Taiwan semiconductor factory that if China ever invades Taiwan, they're going to push it and destroy the whole factory. So, I mean, that's kind of funny. I don't know if it's true. It probably is true. And honestly, it's probably true. I would be worried though, like what if that accidentally got pushed when it wasn't getting invaded and it nuked the whole factory? That sounds kind of terrible. So I don't really know how that whole thing works. China's obviously concerned enough to just build their own. And right now they're friendly enough in terms with everyone else. It doesn't seem like they're going to be invading Taiwan tomorrow, but they've been doing military drills all around it. In any case, Taiwan's TSMC right now produces about 90% of the world's most advanced chips. So this isn't a small number. And this geopolitical issue that I talk about and people are like, oh, he's getting too political. Like, I mean, whatever. It's like an actual issue that very directly impacts this entire thing. 70% of all of the most advanced chips are being built there. So any disruption in Taiwan is going to severely impact global chip supply. This is something everyone's concerned about. U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo was noting that China produces about 60% of legacy chips, which are commonly used in cars and appliances. So if there really was this big trade disruption, the U.S. would also be in trouble, and everyone else would also be in trouble if China decided they didn't want to ship chips, because sure, we're getting like 90% of the high-tech chips out of Taiwan, but 60% of the chips that we're using in cars and refrigerators and like other devices are getting the legacy chips are getting made in China. So it would be bad either way. I don't think, global war is a good idea for a lot of reasons, but especially for AI and for kind of this whole tech industry. So Heb Chen, who's a market analyst at IG, stated, quote, NVIDIA is walking a fine line between maintaining the Chinese market and navigating U.S. tensions. So it's kind of highlighting how the company is trying to adjust to all of the U.S. sanctions. They're tailoring their chips to China at a lower price point, but also trying to make sure that, they don't mess with the trade restrictions that the U.S. is setting in place. So what is the impact of quote unquote big fund 3. So I think despite really significant funding, the past investments have had kind of mixed results. Bloomberg was noting that there's a bunch of frustration among Chinese leadership over the slow development of domestic semiconductors. And also, there's a bunch of corruption investigations involving the former boss of Big Fund. Anytime there's big money and big fund, there seems to be corruption. That's America, China, all over the world. So that's something else. And then I think another interesting thing is it's like apparently the Chinese leadership is like not happy with how slow it is. These manufacturing facilities take a freaking long time to boot up. And this is a reason why we're seeing like Alphabet, Meta, a ton of these companies are like, we're going to build our own chips to compete with NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA is been crushing it for like 2 years because they have all the manufacturing facilities built out, which was a ton of capex, a ton of work. They're years ahead. By the time Meta gets their manufacturing facility to make the chip that competes with the H100, we're going to be on the H300 by NVIDIA. So the manufacturing facility itself, I think, is a competitive advantage a lot of people overlook. And China obviously is struggling. Like China, by the way, is very fast at building manufacturing facilities. If you look at Tesla's manufacturing plant, it was built in record time. I think like half the time it took them to build their Texas plant and maybe like 3 times faster than building their Berlin plant in Germany. So manufacturing plants are something that China's very fast at, and they're still mad about how slow it's getting built. So I think this goes to show how difficult these manufacturing facilities really are. Listen, if you enjoyed the episode and if you learned anything new, I'm going to keep you up to date on how this goes. But the deal is, in exchange for keeping you up to date, if you could subscribe or follow, like this, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, I would really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. OpenAI has just announced that PwC is its biggest customer to date. They just signed 100,000 PwC workers onto the new ChatGPT Teams feature, and they've selected it as, I think, their very first and maybe only reseller of ChatGPT, which is super interesting how this whole deal is getting structured. I'm going to get into this on the podcast. Let's dive in. So, of course, there's the big announcement. They're going to be having PwC as their biggest customer, 100,000 users. This is pretty big. They launched their ChatGPT Enterprise tier, or their kind of like their Teams tier, back in August of last year. And there's a couple things that you're able to get here. So on the new tier, you have faster unlimited interactions, customizable models, enhanced analytics tools. And really what they're trying to do is monetize OpenAI's generative AI products to more of an enterprise audience and give them kind of just make it better and faster. But otherwise, it's, the same AI model that everyone else gets. So Richard Hashler, who, is working on this, said PwC is the first partner that we are leaning into in this way. PwC becomes our largest customer, but they're also our first partner who's going to be reselling ChatGPT Enterprise. It is penetration into industry verticals, but also providing an expansive set of services that customers desperately need to take advantage of in a brand new solutions category. I'm really curious what kind of, like they're allowing them to resell it. So I'm wondering like how this deal kind of went forward, because at the end of the day, like if you know ChatGPT, you're going to use it. And I wonder like if OpenAI is worried like, hey, maybe we reached like market saturation for what we can do and we need other people to drive the technology forward and sell it. Like, I'm just curious on the reasoning behind why ChatGPT doesn't think our product's so amazing, everyone's just going to want to use it. Why they want like a third-party seller. Maybe they want a partner. Maybe they just wanted a quick 100,000 users and they knew that would be a good way to kind of get this thing rolling. It's interesting to say the least. So right now, ChatGPT's enterprise tier includes 93% of all Fortune 500 companies. So I think that's including PwC's 100,000 employees in the US, UK, and the Middle East, which are going to increase that number more. But, I think when they say they have 93% of all Fortune 500 companies, that doesn't mean everyone at the company is using it. So that means someone at 93%. I'm surprised it's not someone at 100% of the Fortune 500 companies. That's only 500 companies. I'm sure it is 100% and it just didn't get reported correctly because, so maybe some company banned it and no one wants to admit they're using it. But like Fortune 500 companies, there's definitely someone at every company that's using it. So whatever. What I do think is interesting is getting Brett Greenstein's perspective on this. So Brett Greenstein, he's PwC's generative AI leader. He kind of emphasized that adopting ChatGPT won't threaten jobs, but allow business growth without needing, more employees, AKA you won't need to actually hire people. So it's kind of funny because he's like, don't worry, this isn't going to threaten jobs, but once you use it, you won't need to hire anyone new. So it's kind of interesting. I have heard that right now is a very tricky time to be getting jobs. A lot of people I've talked to, it's just a bit of a harder market right now. Not to say it's impossible and not to say, lose hope or anything, but it is trickier. And I think a percentage of this is as we're like adapting to this shift where people are getting these AI tools that make them more efficient. We're kind of at a lull in hiring while we kind of like figure out what to do with all this extra productivity. Now, I think once companies get more productivity, they start getting higher revenue. They're just going to start hiring more people to grow faster as well. So I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing, but perhaps this is a short-term lull, in my opinion, that is happening because of this. In any case, PwC is really shooting for like a total digital transformation. That's like their big thing that they're pushing right now. They say they see generative AI as a huge avenue for consulting, which is kind of aligning with their more broad digital transformation strategy, and it gives a bunch of new growth opportunities for their consulting business, whether that's, making custom GPTs and sharing it with clients or just getting their clients on ChatGPT. There's a lot that they can do here, or teaching their clients how to use AI tools like ChatGPT. I think they're excited about the consulting revenue they can make out of this pretty much. OpenAI's head of global alliance and partnerships, Richard Hashler, was talking about the importance of this whole partnership ecosystem for supporting generative AI solution deployment. And he says that PwC right now is the first of a bunch of different people that are going to have this ability to be resell partners. This is interesting to me. Some people would say maybe they're leaving money on the table, but I think there's a couple things that could happen here. Number one is just like industry goodwill. And number two, I think you have to think about the fact that OpenAI really has reached, in my opinion, a very big market saturation. People are saying that their user growth is slowing. There's incumbents coming in from XAI that just raised $6 billion at a $26 billion valuation. They have Google Gemini that's coming hot on their heels with a bunch of new integrations into everything. They have Meta that's going to be like a big competitor. They have, of course, Anthropic, which is being used, and I think maybe one of the most direct competitors to ChatGPT. So there's a lot of competition, and I think if they can more than just like get extra distribution from PwC, I don't know how much extra distribution they actually would be getting. I think if they can lock in those vendors, they're essentially pay to play, making sure that Anthropic doesn't sign the same deal and PwC isn't shilling Anthropic to everybody. So they're trying to kind of lock in, maybe with the big consulting firms, these deals. And I think that makes a lot of sense if you look at it from that perspective, not just like, how much money are they leaving on the table or actually going to make any extra money? I think it's like, well, they're locking their competitors out of making the same deal. So that might be the biggest win in this situation. In any case, if you enjoyed the episode today and if you learned anything new, I would really, really appreciate it if you drop a review on the
Hi, it's Jim again. This weekend, we're doing another of our shared interviews between #trending and cybersecurity today with another
Winnipeg. And we don't think of Winnipeg as a cybersecurity center, but there's a lot of cybersecurity resources that work there because it's obviously the key city in Manitoba. It's got government. It's got a lot of infrastructure, and it's an affordable city to live in. Number 5 was Ottawa. Number 6 was Vancouver. Number 7 was Nepean, just outside of Ottawa. It has benefits, of course, because of Canada. Canada was too small to be ranked here. Number 8 was Victoria. Number 9 was Brampton. And number 10 was Halifax out in Nova Scotia. And just a couple of surprises I'll talk about because I think this is really interesting.
Please do.
Moncton came out in 12th place. Moncton, New Brunswick, right? So this is a really interesting thing. New Brunswick has been doing some amazing things around cybersecurity. We could have ranked Fredericton, but we had a lot of feedback about Fredericton. That's just under 100,000, growing cybersecurity, crazy, beautiful place. And then the other major surprises was Saskatoon. Saskatoon came up extremely high. And again, that's a bit of a surprise. And when you start going into data, it's a little less of a surprise. And then we didn't see any top cities in the top 10 that were from Quebec. That was a huge surprise because usually you have Montreal coming out as number 2 or number 3, a cybersecurity center in Canada. And from a sheer volume and a sheer community perspective, that is absolutely true. They have an amazing cybersecurity community. But once you looked at taxes, the high taxes that were coming out of Quebec, you were looking at things like healthcare that they were being challenged on. In some of the cities, you were looking at crime rates that were a little higher. It really brought them down. And then the other major surprise was Kitchener-Waterloo not coming in. Kitchener, they're ranked separately, Kitchener and Waterloo, but they did not make the top 10 or even the top 20, even though they have a very strong cybersecurity workforce there.
What kept Kitchener-Waterloo out of that? That is a big surprise.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise. I would say, Jim, that the big challenge out in those communities, again, where healthcare came out.
Okay, nothing. I thought I stopped it. But anyway, I like to say it's gone for 10 hours, 50 hours. I'm just having fun here because I'm drinking my coffee, smoking my cigarette, let it go. I'm having fun. This is lovable, intra, good, very good. I would just like to say 99% of it is got to do with cyber security in space or other planets. How do we interact, and mind-blowing, the extraterrestrial? How do humans do things that God really wants? Like, does God want us human to kill the virus? Does God want us humans to be more beautiful? Does God want us humans to be more coding? Does God us human Israel cybersecurity sell the items to get hackers, or do the best as you can, or mind control, or whatever it is? Beautifully interesting in all that. Japan, China, Australia, America, they're all making technology or advanced technology or chips or the way the system works or whatever it is. And yeah, I love you. From my God to your God, anything that is beautiful or cyber killing or getting more that you're safe and you feel that AI, algorithm all talking together is good. I love you.
It's definitely a surprise. I would say, Jim, that...
And more because there might be some hackers or something, or crazy people, or people interested on something and they want to get help, need advanced technology, interacting or outer space or extraterrestrial. Where is God?
The big challenge out in those communities, again, where healthcare came out as one of the concerns out there. Affordability, obviously, is in the middle there. It's still fairly expensive, not as expensive as some of the major centers, but still fairly expensive. Crime rates were fairly high as well. And I'm trying to remember, let me look at some of the data points here. But yeah, go ahead.
We're going to get email on this for sure.
We are. But if you look at statistical data that's come out in the past number of years, outside of cybersecurity, and you just look at livability in the cities, the results are the same. Okay, so some of these cities don't come out that high from a livability perspective in most major Canadian studies that have come out in the past. When you add cybersecurity to it, it just changes it a little bit. And I think what's really interesting about the demographics, we didn't do a lot of age demographic studies. So one of the things we're going to change next year is start digging into the different age groups, start looking at ethnicity, those kinds of things. Because I think what's really interesting, and a lot of the feedback we had in the CCN survey were specific to some of those groups being unhappy in some of those communities. Either because the community wasn't supportive of them, they didn't have enough services to be supportive in the community to be successful, or they felt that as either newcomers or individuals newly educated in the country, just graduating, there were no opportunities for them. There were limited opportunities for employment in cybersecurity in those communities. So I think our study is very different than others. And when you start looking at it, not as a popularity contest, but you start looking at it as livability, and you start looking at it from a cybersecurity perspective, you've got resources that are great and working in those communities that have been employed there for years. But then you've got a whole new group trying to come in that are studying in those larger communities, but aren't getting the opportunities. One of the challenges we've talked in the Canadian Cybersecurity Network for a while is we need to start treating cybersecurity as a trade. We need to get individuals that are coming out of universities and colleges and put them right directly into opportunities for them to start learning the trade. Because otherwise, companies are looking for 4 to 5 years of experience. It's not going to work. That doesn't work. We need to start getting young cybersecurity resources working when they graduate.
Yeah. And the U.S. is going to smoke us on this one. They've recently removed a lot of the requirements, at least for federal government, in terms of no longer requiring a university degree. They would take trade certifications and competence. And I think we overblow this sometimes in terms of, and I taught at universities. I'm totally in favor of a university education, but you don't need 4 years of university to get a starting job in cybersecurity.
Yeah. This is about competencies, and this is about learning on the job, right? So a lot of it is learning on the job. Give people the chance to actually learn how to do this work. And education is great. The more you have, the more certifications you have, the better. Okay, so nothing against that at all. We're very supportive of that at the Canadian Cybersecurity Network. We're just saying we want people to graduate, to start working as a trade as they're going to school and then moving into the workforce. And we believe that is the way to start looking at it. We've got examples of that taking place in some cases in some of the countries. We've got great programs in some countries that are doing things that are very close to that. It's time for Canada to become a little bit more aggressive and give individuals that opportunity. And I think what we're seeing on the survey side as well is individuals just not feeling that they have the opportunity to be successful or to make a livable wage, even at cybersecurity in some cases in some of those communities. So I think there's a lot more things to dig into in Cybertowns 2025. And we're going to start working with some of these communities to help them retain and grow their cybersecurity workforces. I think there's huge opportunities for all the people that are there. There's opportunities for Toronto to do a lot better. There's opportunities for every city and community out there to do better and attract resources. And I think the COVID and the remote work changed some of the parameters as well. So I think we started seeing, yes, we saw some people leave this big city and then come back to the big city, but there was still a core resources that stayed in some of those smaller communities and are building those communities up. So I think you're seeing it. You're starting to see people went out west. They went to places like Moncton. They went to places like Fredericton. The stats show it. Saskatoon, maybe. I think we're starting to see some of those smaller centers that are developing these resources. And there's some great livability in some of those communities and affordability. And the more people hear about them, there's an opportunity for those communities to grow some of that cybersecurity and tech talent because they're tied together. We bring cybersecurity resources to a community. We're going to have all the other tech resources follow as well because it's part of the overall solution. I think the main thing that came out of it was a lot of communities have some great things taking place, but a lot of people don't know about them. So they're not being shared outside of that community. I'll take an example. Well, there's the city of Ottawa as an example has been doing some interesting things. You've got Invest Ottawa. That's their kind of economic development side. And they have a place called just outside of the main core that's called XO. And they do some cybersecurity testing out there that's more to remote sensors and vehicles and all those kinds of things. So they've got an actual testing kind of area, testing ground for these types of resources that smaller companies that can use them to verify where their product is at and everything else. So there's communities that are developing these types of centers where the competencies can be developed a lot further. They offer resources. I went in there one day and I was going like, wow, this is great. You can sit down, you can talk to other entrepreneurs, you can grab a grab the free coffee for people to come in and talk. And then there's a startup center right beside there. So you're talking to people that are building up these cybersecurity or other type of tech businesses. And then they have a hardware center, they have a software center, and there's conferences going on that are free for people and all kinds of great resources. But most people don't even know about it. So it's like, how do we do that at the Canada scale to start sharing those resources? So part of our report is about sharing some of those resources. It's about saying, here are some things that some communities are doing that let's celebrate these things beyond the city. Let's make it available globally. Let's make it available within Canada itself, because we can't continue to compete at a local level against each other. We need to start sharing those resources in the community.
I have to congratulate you on this. Many of
Welcome responses, including offensive work by law enforcement, military, and diplomatic responses. For God's sake, this is not rocket science. Australia has already done it. We need to set aside the past, what has been done, and get serious about protecting our future and getting out of this miserable self.
The RCMP, the Communications Security Establishment, and Public Safety Canada have discussed creating a single place for individuals to report cybercrime, but they haven't got past talking about it. Another problem. As of January, the RCMP was having trouble hiring cybersecurity investigators. David, what stood out to you in this report?
Obviously, as someone who's been saying a lot of this for the past 7 years, I wasn't terribly surprised by the Auditor General's report. What I have, however, learned over the past few years working at the national level on these issues is that, number one, we lack a clear, coherent, updated national cybersecurity strategy, not just a federal one, that has a greater clarity on who at the cabinet level is actually the lead for cyber and how we're going to make it simpler for everyday Canadians and Canadian businesses to get the help that they need. I think the first damning insight from this report is the ball drop on a child sex exploitation case between the CRTC and the RCMP. And it's a perfect example of the CRTC needing to get out of this business. We need to wind down the CRTC's role in cybercrime, specifically the role it was given under the Canadian anti-spam legislation, and transfer it to the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which, as a collaboration between CSC and the RCMP, is better equipped to handle this. We need to follow Australia's example. When we look at Australia, they have a single full cabinet minister, Claire O'Neill, who's responsible for cybersecurity and coordinating across various agencies and ministries. The Cyber Centre, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, ideally should fall under this minister. The Cyber Centre should be the single point of contact for Canadian businesses and individuals impacted by all forms of cyber attack, whether it's destructive attacks, attacking critical infrastructure, criminal attack with extortion or ransomware, espionage, or cyber-enabled fraud. This would enable the proper funneling to appropriate agencies with better visibilities into the problem and data collection. This idea of a minister for cybersecurity is a coordinating role and could coordinate with those stakeholders who would continue to hold a piece of the puzzle, whether it's the Minister of Public Safety, Minister of National Defense, Minister of Global Affairs, Minister for ISED, or even the Minister responsible for Natural Resources Canada for some aspects of critical infrastructure or transport. And by implementing a new updated strategy, would also help execute on that strategy, do the legislative and regulatory and policy changes, as well as coordinating offensive responses, not just the defensive responses, including offensive work by law enforcement, military, and diplomatic responses. For God's sakes, this is not rocket science. Australia has already done it. We need to set aside the past, what has been done, and get serious about protecting our future and getting out of this miserable present state of affairs.
What struck me in the report was that the RCMP had poor cybersecurity reporting, records management, and a lack of quality data, which the Auditor General says impairs the force's ability to understand the full picture of cybercrime cases that are reported in Canada to its cybercrime unit. And it also has trouble keeping track of specific cases assigned to the unit for investigation. And I don't know, you don't need to have a unified ministry of cybersecurity for you to recognize this. Does this suggest that the RCMP doesn't take cybercrime seriously?
No, absolutely not. I've mentioned before on past podcasts that I have had the chance to get to know some very senior leaders in the RCMP, and I've had some really meaningful conversations. I know that the RCMP care about these issues, but they are woefully and absolutely inadequately resourced to the escalating challenge they face. Keep in mind that in the federal 2018 budget, the scale of cybercrime that was being reported in cyber-enabled fraud was about $100 million. Today, it's $600 million reported. It's a massive, six-fold increase in what's going on in the world. Meanwhile, the RCMP haven't been given a new dollar for cyber since 2018. I'm not even going to beat up on the political leaders, though, too much today, because the sheer pace of this thing is outpacing even the good intentions that they had in 2018. We are in a crisis. It's time to treat it that way, and we need to see the cyber story as part of a larger issue in this country around the strategic threat of cyber at the national security level, and alongside foreign interference and intensifying international conflict, the fact that we live in a much more hostile world. We need to wake up before it's too late.
The RCMP got almost $70 million for an IT system to help track and analyze cybercrime data. It was supposed to be implemented last March, but it's been delayed 2 years.
I think this is hardly a unique problem for the RCMP. When they're trying to do anything in large enterprise IT, in companies, in the private sector, and in particular the federal government, is really hard. And these type of IT projects going off the rails isn't generally due to the technology itself. It's usually a toxic combination of broken procurement process, high, lowest bidder, and lack of leadership at the most senior levels, including the political level. I'd say a clear message to Canadians as a caution also is the current toxic political environment around ArriveCan is also increasingly paralyzing IT issues federally. But setting aside the data side, I don't even think that's the biggest problem swamping police right now. With the inadequate level of resources that they have and the fact that they just keep jumping from fire to fire rather than having the ability to follow something through and really go at these gangs, which we look at Genesis Market, take years of consistent policing effort, then you see the challenge is just almost to the point of being unmanageable.
Another thing that the report points out is the CRTC, which is the broadcast regulator charged with enforcing Canada's anti-spam legislation, seems to be a bit shy. At one point, when a police department learned that the regulator had seized computers of an alleged offender, a police department got a warrant to get its hands on that data for a criminal investigation. But rather than hand over the devices or the information that it had to police, the CRTC got permission of the owner to delete the data and then told the police department, we no longer have the data that you want.
Yeah, it's time to fire the CRTC from this role. They have enough on their plate and should be focused on issues around telecommunications policy. We need to treat malicious and abusive anti-spammers in the criminal code and have policing agencies who are properly trained to deal with criminal activity, investigate it, and put together prosecutable cases to the Crown, deal with that. We have so botched the Canadian anti-spam legislation, we have to fix it. We have to focus it so it actually does some good, and it needs to be in the hands of agencies that can execute it properly.
One thing to make clear, this was not a report on the effectiveness of Canadian government agencies, such as the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, on advising organizations and individuals on their roles in cyber attack prevention.
Absolutely. And I have had the opportunity to get to know some of the senior leaders at CSC and at the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. They and their teams are top tier, and we do hold our own at the global level. But they face the same staffing challenges for skilled talent that we all do in cybersecurity. And I do think that there's ways that we could be better working together as the public and the private sector both with improved information sharing, but also collaboratively sharing resources to do it. I do think we've got the right players and the foundational pieces at the national level, but we need a better and a clarified head coach, for lack of a better analogy, and an understanding of who are the assistant coaches. So this is my point about the cyber minister helping coordinate among the other ministries, not to mention the intergovernmental aspects at the provincial level. One thing I have as a worry, as a deep concern that is not in the Auditor General report because it only came through in the newly announced federal enterprise IT strategy, cybersecurity strategy rather, is that the federal government's going to place even more work on protecting itself, the Canadian government, on the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which was mandated to help outside of government without increasing resources needed for them. And that just seemed like robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I think it's going to break what the Auditor General has rightly said is working. So they're just going to make it worse.
Okay, final news topic. Will Microsoft recall? The debate still rages on whether Microsoft's new Windows recall tool is a cybersecurity and privacy risk. Recall is a Windows 11 tool that's going to be launched June 18th. And it takes snapshots every 5 seconds of employees' screens. The images are stored on each user's PC, and then employees can use AI to search the stored data. Terry Cutler and I discussed the pros and cons of this last week, but an article this week on Wired.com continues the debate. A security researcher found that on a test computer, Restore stores its snapshot data unencrypted, which is against what Microsoft promised. At least in preview versions, another researcher has released a tool, he says, that can automatically extract everything Recall records that isn't encrypted. The news site Ars Technica says running Recall in a test environment, a user can access someone else's Recall data store, which Microsoft says isn't supposed to be done. Two things to remember. All tests so far have been done on non-approved Windows devices. Microsoft says that when officially launched, Recall will only run on PCs powered by Snapdragon processors, and these PCs will also be branded Copilot Plus. Microsoft is trying to work with Intel and AMD to get the Recall license for those machines. But the Snapdragon PCs are only just being introduced. They won't be in business environments immediately. The other thing to remember, of course, is Microsoft's website says Recall's data store is protected with data encryption. But David, the Ars Technica and Wired articles throw more skepticism on this tool.
Absolutely. Andrew Cunningham wrote for a spot-on opinion piece in Ars Technica that absolutely nails the core issue here. Here's the headline. Quote, Windows Recall demands an extraordinary level of trust that Microsoft hasn't earned. Period. I agree. I'm frankly stunned that they've gone ahead and released this to the hype that they have. I think they've undermined all of their post-cybersecurity review board messaging about how they're changing their security culture, putting security ahead of product, and they're on a new path. I want to be clear, for me, there is no debate about Recall. This is a massive cybersecurity and privacy risk. Wired's piece eviscerated, and I use that word purposefully, the marketing speak security assurances that have been provided, and what is likely, the example you mentioned, the first of what will be many real-world toolkits used by criminals and researchers. In this case, this one's called Total Recall. Now, to be clear, I do appreciate Microsoft as a company. I think it's done some amazing things, both technologically and with the work like Brad Smith's advocacy on global cybersecurity norm, or with the help in Ukraine in its online war with Russia. But they have to recall this feature. The supposed productivity and convenient gains don't come close to the now proven security and privacy issues before this thing has even hit the streets.
Still, for the moment, that the preview version that these researchers are working on doesn't have encryption turned on, but the full version, when it comes out after June 18th, will. Does that reassure you?
Not even close. From what researchers are saying so far is that they believe the encryption that Microsoft is promoting is BitLocker, which is great when the threat model is someone getting access to your device and physically trying to get it off of the hard drive. But the data, no matter what, that's being stored here, and let's be really clear, it's being stored on the device, has to be decrypted at various points to be processed and used. And you simply need to find holes in the processes that do that to abuse this data. Sometimes the only way to be safe in IT, in cybersecurity, is not do something. And I will never own a device that takes screenshots. And yes, despite the clever marketing speak that talk about snapshots, they are screenshots every 5 seconds that can store up to a year's worth of everything I do on a device. Hell no. And let me be blunt. This feature has the potential to undo decades worth of progress in securing devices from software flaws and malicious actor and malware. This is a huge leap backward if we are so silly as to do it.
Well, Microsoft says in addition to encryption, there's other protections. A user needs administrator privileges to access the recall data store, and Windows administrators can turn recall off.
So far, it's proven way too hard to turn off and should be turned off by default. And as for administrative privileges, are you kidding me? We can't even get a handle on local admin and administrative privileges properly in enterprise environments with IT teams still. And we think that's going to keep people safe at the personal compute level or the small and mid-sized business level. That is not even close to be good enough. The reality is they can spray all the perfume they want on this AI turd, but it's still going to stink.
So is this a growing problem for Microsoft, or is this a wait and see what finally ships?
I think, honestly, if they don't pull this feature soon, sooner or later, the US Congress or Senate, and they have some senators who are absolutely gunning for Microsoft right now, they're going to realize the risk this tool could pose to their political campaign machine and personal devices, which, by the way, are not managed by government. They're going to lose their minds. That's a much bigger hearing Microsoft does not want to have. I'd love to say we'd see something similar here in Canada, but given that we can't even deal with the bigger issues like MPs apparently working for foreign governments to the detriment of Canada for their own personal benefit, aka Tradergate, I'm pretty skeptical.
That's it for this week's edition. Thanks very much. Than other sectors.
Attackers are staying undetected for 286 days on average.
And again, how do defenders stop this from being abused?
It can be the same thing as the other two. Basically, if you're not using this service, disable it, because spoofing is a real thing, and you can send out a group policy in the Windows environment that'll help lock down that protocol. Again, you also want to make sure you have proper network segmentation, because if attacker gets into the network, at least you can't start traveling wherever you want. There's going to be limited.
But there should be, excuse me, there should be some AI tools or something website where you can come and clean up your computers, detect, get rid of it, put some cyber security, some stop on something that, oh, I'm detecting this is bad in your computer, the AI or something is mathematically stopping it, helping it to kill the whatever it is fishy in your computer or something. You must be more alert, or your chip is not just a chip, it's way past the chip. Blow your mind, cyber security, blow your mind, things you've never seen. This will do better than every other one. It will clean your computer, will defect it, diagnose it, command prompts and everything, mind control.
By range. And of course, we want to put in strong vacation methods.
Because we're getting scared. YouTube, Facebook, Google, Microsoft Microsoft, future, Australia, America, Japan, China, Syria, Iraq, England, France, Germany. Love you, sex.
You've got 2FA everywhere, including on the workstation, especially the network administrators. Look at devices, look at technology like Duo and these other guys that can help protect the local administrator accounts.
Let's move on to the easy, exploitable vulnerabilities that this report found. Outdated Windows servers, unpatched servers, and the use of the same administrator password across systems within the same organization. Like, this is 2024 and IT departments still can't get the basics right?
Look, and you have the mindset of, who's going to want to hack me? I'm small fish. I mean, it's no wonder small businesses are being hacked all over the place. And here's a news flash for the small business owners out there, okay? Hackers know that you don't have the time, money, or resources to deal with cybersecurity. So that makes you the perfect target. And one of the problems is around resource constraints. So many IT departments don't have big budgets, so they can't hire the top talent. So in these cases, you want to outsource to an outside cybersecurity firm that can help complement what you got. Maybe you might have complex environments. We see this often with hospitals. You want to try and bring in the latest technology, but it can't work with the older stuff. And the older stuff can't load up the proper security measures that it can today. So you're mixed with this complex environment. There's problems with awareness for training. A lot of IT staff aren't fully aware of all the risks of having outdated software and unpatched vulnerabilities can do for you. We see this how many times in the podcast where we always talk about these companies being breached, all because they didn't put on a patch. Well, they just didn't know about it. And of course, the goal here is to make sure you have a lot of automation in place. There's a lot of tools out there that can help with patch management, with auditing your environment, and look at your policies and procedures. You have a disaster recovery plan, because it's not about a question of if, but when. How fast can you get back up and running?
Okay. News item 2, cybersecurity rescue for American rural hospitals. Hackers have been targeting the healthcare sector in a number of countries, perhaps because it's a sector that doesn't have a history of being a leading industry in cyber defense, and perhaps because attackers believe hospitals are more susceptible to extortion than other sectors. Regardless, this week, 2 major tech companies announced help specifically for American rural hospitals. Google will provide endpoint security advice to rural hospitals and nonprofit organizations at no cost. Eligible organizations can get discounted pricing for Google communication and collaboration tools and security support, and there'll be a pool of funds to help them move to better cyber defense tools. Microsoft is extending its nonprofit program to independent and critical care hospitals and rural emergency hospitals to provide grants and up to a 75% discount on Microsoft security products optimized for smaller organizations. And for participating larger rural hospitals already using eligible Microsoft solutions, Microsoft is providing its most advanced security suite at no additional cost for 1 year. And Microsoft will also provide free cybersecurity assessments and free training for frontline IT staff at eligible rural hospitals throughout the U.S. to improve resiliency to malicious cyber attack. This is tech help in just one country. Should all IT vendors be doing this or more in other countries?
Yeah, look, they need all help they can get. We've seen a local case, I can't remember when it was, a couple of weeks ago, a hospital got ransomed, and then the cyber criminals realized what they'd done, and they gave them back the keys, say, our apologies, here's the key to decrypt your data. But as I've been working with in the healthcare industry for many years, and there's a lot of challenges going on there. There's a lot of politics involved, so often they choose the wrong product. The other issue you brought up here is that if, when Microsoft and these other guys offering their services, it could lead to a vendor lock-in. And you mentioned here, it's only for 1 year. What's going to happen after that? Is the price going to rocket? How is it going to work? The other challenge that we see often is that maybe they don't want to be locked into one vendor. So in this case, we see, okay, we're going to have Microsoft Defender on the workstations. We'll have Trend Micro on the servers. We're going to have something else for the network. And then what happens is when a breach occurs or an incident occurs, 20 people have to jump on a call. And they got to piecemeal what just happened. And not all the information is there. it's wrong, never lead to a conclusion. It's very, very difficult. And there's a lot of changes that happen in healthcare too, where an IT person will stay on board for a year or two and then leave. So there's a lot of turnover that happens, and the information doesn't stay local, or the knowledge transfer doesn't occur. So there's a lot of moving parts.
So what about local and national governments giving more funding to not-for-profit hospitals and rural hospitals for cybersecurity? What about that also being a solution?
Yeah, if we look at why the importance of healthcare, obviously it's a critical infrastructure. So you need to have proper security in place, but if you don't have the resources, it's really hard to do. And as healthcare is getting much more targeted by cyber criminals because they have the money, or the hospital can go back to the local government and get the funds to pay off the ransom. And healthcare is perceived as a high value target because of the medical data. And of course, when cyber attacks disrupt a hospital, it could lead to delays in patient care or even health outcomes. But again, the challenge you're going to have with healthcare is that they have no budget, they got no resources, they have no time. So they're going to have to figure this part out.
All right, final news item. More detail on snowflake attacks. Mandiant has been investigating compromises of organizations that use the Snowflake cloud storage and analytics service. You may recall that a couple of weeks ago, news emerged of attacks on Snowflake customers. The latest report says Mandiant and Snowflake have notified about 165 firms that may have been hacked. One company that recently publicly acknowledged being hit is Pure Storage, which uses Snowflake for analytics and customer support. Stolen were names and email addresses. The Mandiant report says in most cases, it's seen the hacker used stolen credentials that had collected as far back as 2020. Terry, what did you think when you saw the Mandiant report?
My thoughts were on how the cyber criminals can exploit all this hacked data. So as you mentioned, usernames and usernames and emails. And of course, these things can be used in various ways. The biggest one's going to happen now is phishing attacks. Now with phishing attacks, now they can leverage AI to make these emails really credible. And when you start logging into these fake websites, you start giving away your username and password and possibly your two-step verification. Now that can lead to an attack on your organization and get them compromised as well. We're seeing a lot of that stuff as well on the dark web. So we do a lot of dark web monitoring for our clients, and whenever passwords leak, they get notified. But we've seen a lot of administrative accounts leak. So that's how we did an IR back in 2020 as well, where the administrative password leaked for this customer. And they got in and they're able to compromise the whole place. And because it was a legitimate login, no red flags went off, but they didn't have 2FA. So this can lead to social engineering as well. It's going to be very messy.
It struck me that this attacker, which Mandiant has given the name UNC5537, this attacker has been eyeing Snowflake customers for some time. It looks like the gang had been collecting stolen login credentials for several years, figuring out which ones were for Snowflake accounts, and then ravaging the customers over a very short period of time.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, that's what happened with the client a couple of years ago. Same thing. You need to make sure you got 2FA turned on all of your devices, including administrator account. Now, not just that. Start looking at maybe you have some old login methods that are still enabled because there's ways to bypass 2FA. So if I'm using an older technology and I start connecting to your service, and your service has to fall back to old login methods to support me, I can now bypass your advanced security. And not only that, we can also do MFA fatigue. So we can start bombing the customer's either the Authenticator app or for the SMS. And eventually the customer's going to say, hey, it's me. And once he accepts it, it allows me in. So really, you got to start doing pen testing. Look at all these audit services to help locate if you have any old methods set up still.
In one case that was investigated, the Snowflake access username and password were stolen from the PC of a contractor who was working for a customer. That contractor was using his PC not only for work, for personal use as well, and doing risky things on their computer, like downloading pirated software. And downloading pirated software is the odds are it's going to have malware. So the contractors was the one that got hacked, not the employee's PC.
And because he brought it in, it got compromised. But let me actually tell you a real story that happened to a customer in 2021. We came in to do an IR on this company. Later to find out, this business owner was so cheap. He could not even afford or didn't want to spend money on even antivirus from
ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music, and more.
Appeal to, more educated people who are completing high school, people who are sometimes going on to tertiary studies.
A lot of people, they are on university, this going for 10 hours, 55 gold. Australia is doing amazing things, but hard work. They are crying, they are lying. It's difficult. They're like doctors, scientists, they're going into different buildings. It's incredible. IBM, what was it? Computer, mine, mental health, government, army, police. A lot of this, fuck you.
A successful, quite inspiring wartime leader, but one who was able to maintain party unity.
Australia is like trying, but everybody's crying. I don't win anywhere. I don't get any. But they live good. Just they don't have much saving now. They don't save very well. They don't. Years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, they used to save a lot, and now they're not saving 1%. I used to have this shop, and because of this, and I couldn't pay the rent. My son was intelligent, he was clever, he was mechanic and all this, electrician. He's nearly lost his mind from can't pay the house. We have to help him. So good. Beautiful people. But hard work, fuck you.
Wool and wheat. If the loan funds dry up, and if the wool and wheat prices go down, you're in deep trouble. You can't meet your interest bills. Essentially, there's not much of a way out of that in terms of orthodox economic thinking in 1930 for a country such as Australia.
Well, that's just it. Yeah. Orthodox economic thinking just didn't work. I mean, the world economies threw up huge tariff barriers in response to the economic crisis, which meant that they sort of beggared each other, I should say. And Australia was particularly hit hard by the Great Depression. How imaginative was the Scullin government and its treasurer, Red Ted Theodore, in trying to feel a way out of this, to actually pump the economy again?
Yeah, well, initially not very imaginative, because Australia did what you just described. It greatly increased tariffs as a way of trying to fix the problem, cutting off the supply of imports to try and reduce the gap, if you like, between what Australia was earning in the world and its debts, its interest bills. But yes, as the crisis unfolds, there is, some interest in new economic ideas. And yes, Ted Theodore, who'd been Premier of Queensland, was reading Keynes, was familiar with some of the new economic thinking coming out of Cambridge in the United Kingdom, and did come up with, what's called the Theodore Plan, which was really a proposal to kind of inflate the economy with what's called a fiat currency. So in other words, an issue of banknotes that would not be backed by gold. At that time, Australia was on the gold standard, and so its capacity, if you like, to do what central banks around the world do today, print money effectively. They weren't allowed to do that under the orthodoxies of the early 30s, but he came up with the idea of a kind of mild inflation, but it was just blocked. It was blocked by the Senate at the time. He couldn't get the cooperation of the Commonwealth Bank, which was the closest thing Australia had to a central bank at that time. He was also racked by the problem of having become involved in a scandal while he was Premier of Queensland, so that was also playing out. He actually had to step aside as Treasurer for a time. It involved the sale of a mine to the Queensland government. So in the end, Australia does adopt a fairly orthodox plan, which was called the Premier's Plan in 19 1931, but not sufficient to save the government. By then, the government's, really collapsing. And in fact, it split into three. There was a kind of a right wing that was financially orthodox. There was a left wing associated with New South Wales Premier Jack Lang that wanted to suspend payments on Australian interest. Yeah. And then you kind of had a middle ground that figures like Scullin and Theodore are trying to occupy.
You look at pictures of James Scullin. He gets into office in 1929, and by the time he loses government in 32, and then they're thrown out, the party split. He goes from, dark-haired to a snowy white-haired man. That's what his experience in office, trying to govern Australia during this crisis, did to him. John Curtin slowly pulled the party back together. Again, the party survives, though. It survives this terrible split. John Curtin slowly and patiently patches the party together, and they win governments. As Australia's entered into the Second World War this time, Curtin's a major, major figure in Labor history and in Australian history. Bob Hawke loved him. He declared Curtin to be his hero and used to famously go drinking at the John Curtin Hotel in Melbourne. Paul Keating, though, kind of disparaged him as a trier. What do you think, Frank? Was he up to the challenge of leading Australia through the war?
My view of Curtin's gone up over the years, I have to say, and I think his great achievement, you think of the story we've just been discussing of those two splits. Labor had faced two crises, First World War, Depression, and you could argue it failed on both occasions. It fell apart. Curtin becoming Prime Minister, Labor going into government. It didn't win an election, of course. It happened on the floor of the House when a couple of independents switched sides. Is surely a triumph of hope over experience. I mean, you wouldn't have given all that much credit to the possibility of Labor being able to do the job in 1941, given what had happened on those previous occasions. But Labor does do the job. It's a very effective wartime government. It was an effective post-war government too. It's in office for 8 years. By then, at that time, it was by far the longest serving Labor government. And Curtin turns out to be a successful, quite inspiring wartime leader, but one who was able to maintain party unity. And my God, he had some turbulent characters in that government. Lots of troublemakers. Eddie Ward, Evatt, Herbert Evatt, Arthur Calwell. There were a lot of rather difficult characters. And, despite it all, Curtin is able to hold the show together. And I think that's a major achievement.
The split in 55 occurred largely due to fears amongst Catholic Labor people that communists were getting too much of a toehold in the Labor Party. They were practicing a form of entryism, and so Catholic Labor people right-wing Labor people formed their own industrial groups, as they were called. And there was the Catholic movement led by Bob Santamaria with the support of the Catholic Archbishop, Daniel Mannix at the time. And Evatt's response to that was really hard-line response to this secretive Catholic movement coming into the party. When I read the bit you wrote about the split in 1955, the thing that really struck me was how unnecessary it was, and how a leader like Chifley, whose temperament was better than Evatt's, could have held the party together a lot better, could have managed those disparate elements in the party a lot better. Do you think that's true? Do you think Evatt really is primarily responsible for that disastrous split in 1955?
It's a really difficult question, isn't it?
I mean, he leapt to the table in the caucus room and said, take down those bastards' names. I mean, he was doing things like that.
He was, and he was a bit all over the shop on this. So, he cooperates with, Santamaria and his allies in the earlier part of the 1950s and then turns against them. The split in 55 is also partly about the question of what role the Catholic Church should play in Australian politics. And so it's not just about communism. It's also really about the relationship, if you like, between church and political party.
Because in Europe there are Catholic parties, like the Christian Democrats in Italy and also in lesser extent in France. But it was quite common for the Catholic Church to have its own kind of political party in Europe, and often one that would govern the nation.
Yeah, and there is some evidence that that's what Santamaria had in mind, that Bob Santamaria did want to, try to transform Labor into something like a Catholic centre party, or at least some sort of, perhaps something like, a Christian Democratic Party in the German model, or something along those lines. So that is a factor, and whether stronger or better or more stable leadership from the Labor Party could have prevented a split, I think is it's a very difficult counterfactual, because there were certainly some very powerful forces that were pulling the party apart by the time you get to 1954-5. That said, a calmer figure, someone like Chifley, a famously calm figure, may have been able to reconcile some of those forces.
So Evatt becomes leader. He takes Labor to defeat in 3 successive elections. And the first time round, he gets very, very close, but then it gets worse after that. Then Caldwell takes over, and he leads Labor to 3 successive election defeats. Almost gets there the first time round, then each result gets worse after that. Did Labor have a bit of a culture of hanging on for leaders too long, Frank?
Well, in those years, it was famously loyal to its leaders. That said, there weren't necessarily obvious alternatives. I mean, Caldwell's deputy was Gough Whitlam, and I think the general idea was that Whitlam was too young and came from a very strongly professional middle-class background that was aroused suspicion within the Labor Party. Some people thought Whitlam was a kind of secret liberal. I mean, that's the kind of view that was around at the time.
Because he was middle class.
Because he was middle class, because he was well educated. He seemed politically moderate, within the Labor Party at that time. Knew his Greek and Latin. Knew his Greek and Latin very well, indeed. So there weren't obvious alternatives to a Caldwell leadership, to be perfectly honest. But yes, Labor was famously loyal, and yes, by the time you get to the 1966 election, that is a devastating defeat for the Labor Party, and it looked as far from government as was imaginable, and there were whole constituencies, groups, if you like, within society that seemed utterly alienated from the Labor Party by the mid-1960s.
Part of the problem seemed to be the Labor Party at the time was seen as inhabiting a really old-fashioned mindset. It was still living in the Great Depression era to some degree. There's always been that tension in Labor between the people who can't move into the future. They can't sort of see how Australia's changing. And then there's the visionaries who see beyond the horizon and want to take Australia to another place. But they're anywhere but the present, it seems.
Yeah, so in the mid-60s, I mean, young people, women. I mean, today, women tend to lean left in their voting in Australia. All the statistics tell us. Not so in the 1960s. I mean, they're leaning really towards the Liberals, the coalition. There was no propensity for young people to vote Labor at that time. So, yeah, Labor does seem really alienated from the kinds of changes that are occurring in Australia in the age of the Beatles, in the mid-1960s. Yeah.
So then new leaders emerged. Don Dunstan in South Australia is a really important figure in the Labor Party, and Gough Whitlam also becomes leader federally around about this time. What kind of a change does this mean for a Labor Party and for Australia, having these very different kind of Labor leaders emerge, Frank?
Well, it's a change of style. I mean, they do seem cosmopolitan figures. They're both, Don Dunstan, Gough Whitlam are both lawyers. They're both, very, very much exuding a kind of middle-class sort of lifestyle. But there are policy changes too. I mean, Dunstan and Whitlam play a significant role in getting the White Australia policy out of the Labor platform in 1965, for instance. So their style, their image just seems very different to a figure like Caldwell, who yes, Whitlam displaced as leader early in 1967. And they both go about, really formulating new policies to appeal to, more educated people who are completing high school, people who are sometimes going on to tertiary studies, white-collar professionals, women, younger people, migrants. Australia's been transformed by migration during this period. So, yeah, they both, in retrospect, look like modernisers. And I think that's how they saw themselves at the time, bringing Labor into the modern era.
Tragically, or idiotically, if you like, and it depends how you look at it, the Whitlam government was elected on a government that was living on the assumption, it was common at the time, that the good times were going to last forever. And it was quickly met by the energy shock, the OPEC shock of the early 1970s. Suddenly you had this phenomenon of stagflation. High inflation and high unemployment at the same time. It seemed woefully prepared to deal with that, didn't it? Yeah. It has to be said.
Yeah, Whitlam had talked in the 60s. The role of government was no longer to manage scarcity, but to plan for abundance. Things didn't look so abundant by the time you get to 1974 with the end of the long boom. And Labor delivered a budget in 1974 that really didn't take account of the fact that the world had changed. It went on spending, and that was was highly inflationary, and his critical background actually to a kind of a loss of much public confidence in that government, which had been a very adventurous and in many ways a very successful reformist government. I mean, many of the legacies of the Whitlam government are still with us in key legislation around a whole range of issues: heritage, anti-discrimination, consumer rights,
which was Medibank back then,
Medibank and so on. But yeah, it was very weakened by changes in the international economy.
Time does not permit to unpick the intricacies of the dismissal of the Whitlam government after the supply crisis of 1975. But, Whitlam was dismissed by the Governor-General that he'd appointed, Sir John Kerr. After that bruising experience when they lost the subsequent election in a landslide, Labor could sit back and reflect that the Senate had been stacked against them, which is how supply was allowed to be blocked. It was flouting constitutional conventions. The Conservative parties stacked the Senate, which gave them the numbers to block the budget. And
I like to say the other day something about uranium or something, or the electricity, that was pole with the things going around. Anyway, there was two things: the uranium and the electricity, clean energy, whatever. They were debating, went on for. I don't think they knew what they were saying. Because one said they're already there, those things are there. What are you going to do? The other said the solution is to have clean energy, and the uranium or whatever that is, or the mining or whatever, can be sold to others for electricity, or they can make something out. I don't know what they're saying. I think those politicians the other day was just sitting there just making conclusion, ideas, this, that, blah, 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 blah. They don't even know. It's those people that work at those things, or whoever made it, they know what in the future. It's not those politicians. They just make rules, allegation, and say this, say that, and sometimes they don't help at all, brother. They don't help at all, bro. Like genocide, or protesting for the Aborigines, or welfare, or criminals. They come to Australia and they live here, or they were coming because certain people were said you were allowed to be here. We said we could protect you. Those other ones that were in the camp in Papua New Guinea or in that island, who are war criminals, or they came by, but they are under arrest there in the camp. The other ones that came, they had permission from their own government that asked if they could go there to come to Australia. Their own government asked. The other one didn't have their own government to ask. They just ran away. I don't understand. They just sit there, brother. They just sit there, and sometimes they're not one that did whatever. They don't do anything, man. It's ridiculous. It's like housing, the real estate down the road, or the person over here, the company here, company are doing the job. The politicians are like making the protocols, the rules, but they're really not doing anything. They have to provide those rules into that company, into those people, community outlet, and really, it's hardcore, brother. It's hardcore. I'm sorry. I'm from another country. I live in Australia, and I find it difficult for people who need to buy land or a house, or get married, go to school, or pretend that the government is okay and all that. It's bullshit, brother. It's bullshit. It's hard. Fuck you. It's very hard. Everything hard. The whole lot. Putting protocols for the army, people that come by boat, if they have permission, yes, from their own, whatever it is, and the others can't. It's difficult, brother. It's difficult. Sorry, it's fuck you too. And we love America. It is open, and we love everybody. It's good. It's good. We don't care. We want to fix it, but it's not our fault. It's not our fault. The more coronavirus, or more the world, or this global warming, or whatever it is. Clean energy and uranium. That was it. Fuck you.
Against them, which is how supply was allowed to be blocked. It was flouting constitutional conventions. The Conservative parties stacked the Senate, which gave them the numbers to block the budget in the first place. And then the Queen's representative in Australia had.
And they had the gangs of boss, people with guns, different names like Notorious, Bikey, or Good Lord, and even a Bikey bloke married some lady who was Aborigine in the parliament, and she couldn't have a husband as a Bikey. She had to deport. I don't know, I can't remember. It's crazy. They just sit. They fight the cats. It's really hard, bro. It's really hard. On the name of God, can't up. On the name of God, harden the fuck up.
Stepped in to sack the elected government of the day, which was the Whitlam government. How far did that go to?
God, on the name of Jesus Christ that died on the cross, name of the Father, Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ died on the cross, name of the Father, Holy Spirit, the name of Jesus Christ. Native power, nation to nation, combination, love. We're living in a mixed up world.
Damaging Labor's sense that it could achieve change through Australia's existing democratic institutions. Did it make Labor more paranoid that the system was inherently conservative and stacked against them?
I think there were elements, particularly on the left of the Labor Party, who took that kind of conclusion from 1975. Some believe that the CIA was involved. This kind of idea was quite, it was common in the later 70s and early 80s. Some people still believe it, but that there was a sense amongst particularly many on the left of the Labor Party that it had been the victim of a conspiracy. In a sense, it was a victim of a conspiracy between Sir John Kerr and Malcolm Fraser, but there were ideas about wider conspiracies. But I think what also happens coming out of the dismissal is a determination that we're not going to ever allow anything like that ever to happen again. A steely determination to be pragmatic.
You heard it there. The guy said it never to be happen again. Okay, that's what he says. Then suddenly there's a rise of machine guns, a rise of people arguing, can't live here, can't live there, this is too special, we work here, they're mixing it up, they're panicking, whatever, dickhead, fuck you too.
To treat your opponents as ruthless and to behave accordingly, to never to give them a break, I think. And
the decor of the parliaments might convince you're in a gentleman's club, but there was a lot of ungentlemanly fighting going on there, wasn't there?
There was a lot of ungentlemanly fighting going on. And, I think a lot of those really young politicians who were elected around 1974, 75, 77, 80 are very shaped by the Vietnam War. Many were opposed to the Vietnam War, but their political consciousness is really shaped by the dismissal. And when they come to government nationally under Hawke in 1983, they are, many of them, hardened pragmatists, and they're determined they're not going to allow that ever to happen again.
So with the advent of the Hawke government, followed by the Keating government, we get Labor's longest stretch in power. It's 13 years in power federally. They embarked on this radical process to remake Australia, which is something, as you said, the Labor Party was always talking about itself doing, but in a way that no one expected, which was to open the Australian economy, make us more internationally competitive, deregulate the banks, allow the entry of foreign banks, float the dollar, lower tariffs, and it can be said, and I think it's incontrovertible, that then underwrote the prosperity that Australia's subsequently enjoyed. But is it true in doing all this, Hawke and Keating undid the conditions that gave rise to the Labor Party in the first place?
Yeah, and by the time you get to the party's centenary in 1991, there is a kind of crisis of identity that I think is a product of those kinds of accommodations that you just described, Richard. And I've never actually been able to find this magazine cover ever again, but I remember a magazine cover from that time that showed a man in a suit shearing a sheep. And of course, what it was doing was making a point about the modern Labor Party and where it had ended up, the man in the suit, as distinct from where it had begun.
That would have been Neville Wran. I remember there was a moment when Neville Wran was asked to shear a sheep on the campaign trail. He had no idea how to do it, and his campaign manager had to show him. I remember that. Because, he was a Balmain boy, Neville Wran. He might have been able to fix a boiler, but not how to know how to shear a sheep.
Yeah, well, a lawyer and an actor at university, but certainly not a shearer.
No.
Yeah. So, Yeah, look, there was a crisis of identity and a big debate, about Labor tradition. Had the Hawke and Keating governments departed from Labor tradition? This was a kind of an academic debate, I suppose, in the later 1980s and early 1990s. A departure, I think, from many of the things and institutions that people had seen as quintessentially Labor. Labor privatised its pride and joy, the Commonwealth Bank. Labor created the Commonwealth Bank as a people's bank back in 1911 and was privatising it in the early 90s.
How did that work out? The People's Bank, anyway.
Yeah, the People's Bank. Maybe we need one again, I don't know. But, it did seem that, particularly Labor's commitment, I think, to the public sector and to the idea of a kind of an active state was being very challenged. But, of course, the background to this is big changes happening around the world. I mean, this is the period of the Berlin Wall going down. Organised communism is kind of as disintegrated. A lot of the kind of reference points, I suppose, for Labor politics in Australia were kind of disappearing in the second half of the 80s. And I think this is a part of the Australian story as well.
Labor went out of office in 1996 when John Howard was elected and stayed out of office until 2007 when Kevin Rudd got elected as Prime Minister. And once again, within a year, they're confronted by a gigantic international crisis, the global collapse, what we now call the global financial crisis. I keep feeling we just keep singing this is the same thing on repeat. Labor split, it got its act together, it finally got itself elected, ready to govern, and then there was a crisis that overwhelmed it. Here we are again.
Yeah.
Is there something quite eerie about this? Maybe it says something that when the crisis is about to erupt, conditions are deteriorating to such an extent Labor can actually get up at long last, and then all hell breaks loose. What do you think of my historical theory here as a professor of history?
Well, yes, it's a kind of a law of history, perhaps. I suspect it is more coincidental. I mean, we're talking about a small number of cases, obviously, and when Rudd was elected in 2007, to the untutored eyes of people like me, the economy seemed to be in reasonable nick, actually. The crisis would come, obviously, within about a year. But you couldn't say that the election of the Rudd government was a response to a sense of economic crisis.
It was often said at the time, too, the kind of people getting elected as Labor MPs has changed profoundly. They were less people who come out of the union shop floor or out of a small business or out of a farm, and they were, or a teacher or being a doctor or what have you, or a lawyer. They were more increasingly ex-political staffers who'd managed to get themselves pre-selection and then got themselves elected. And so Labor's support base seemed to be disappearing from underneath it. Its class was changing as a form of parliamentarian. They were sort of becoming like an executive appointment service for student politicians, really, after a while. And yet Australia was changing underneath it. The old class divisions were changing, and there was a growing divide between the haves and have-nots, but not on the same lines. It was more like the prosperous city centres of Australia and the less prosperous hinterlands of Australia.
There's that. There's also the generational one that's become so critical, I think, in recent years, the differences of opportunity between younger people and older ones, we Generation X's and Boomers and so on. I think that's become a really important dynamic, and Labor has struggled, I think, to retain the support of younger people. There was, I think, a surge of younger people towards Rudd in 2007, but the youth vote these days, I think, is very divided between Labor and the Greens in particular, and that, I think, reflects some of those new sort of divisions opening up, particularly around things like job security, the housing market, university fees, a whole range of issues where, many young people feel that Labor hasn't been sufficiently on their side. So I think that's been a very important dynamic as well.
The Liberal Party is being assailed by the election of those so-called teal members in their once heartland seats in the cities of Australia. So too, Labor found itself losing the seat of Fowler in southwestern Sydney to an independent candidate, Di Lee. Do you expect we'll see more candidates like that crop up, who are going to pop up in these electorates where Labor has really not paid much attention to them, has been trying to parachute candidates in from outside the electorate?
Yeah, look, I think that, I don't need to think it because we know that independents have successfully challenged, entrenched sort of Labor power in particular seats in the past. Phil Cleary won Wills when Bob Hawke retired. a really Labor seat in northern Melbourne. So this can happen. And yes, I think particularly where you've got an independent with strong local connections, support of local business.
And as Labor's primary vote gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower each election, so it's what, in the mid-30s now?
Well, in fact, low 30s nationally at the last election. So, yeah, one of the things we found, and this is true of seats held by Labor, Liberal, Nationals, is that a seat doesn't have to be marginal for an independent to win it. In fact, it's often quite a lopsided or safe seat that is vulnerable because you get an independent come in. They may not get the majority of the primary vote, but they come second. They get the preferences from someone who's come third and are able to win the seat. And we've seen that happen, in many cases over the last 25 years. And certainly Labor is vulnerable, I think, to community-based independence. Labor will also, I suspect, adapt to that by, perhaps in some instances, selecting different kinds of candidates. They'll perhaps be looking, in some seats at least, for candidates with really strong community connections.
Again and again in this story, like I said, we've been saying a story that Labor got elected, it was confronted by a catastrophe, and it either found its way through or it split horribly and fell apart, was overwhelmed by circumstances, spent years and years and years in opposition. And the next sentence you could write each time could be, and it disappeared and went the way of so many other political parties in Australia. But it doesn't do that. It keeps picking itself up, patching itself together and coming back and winning government again. Why? How is it doing this? Is there some common thread you can discern within the Labor Party that's kept it alive for more than 130 years in Australia?
I think it's the continuation of its relationship with the unions remains very important in that sense of continuity. That relationship probably becomes even more important during periods when it's doing poorly in electoral terms. So I think that does give it continuity. I think there are also some basic ethos, I suppose, or a basic set of principles or ideas that have really sat there right through this period. So Labor's changed enormously over 130 years in terms of who votes for it and, its rhetoric, its image. But, a broad commitment to greater equality would be one of those things that I think was there in the 1890s, is still there. We're often disappointed, of course, by Labor in government. It doesn't do enough to reduce inequality, but I think that aspiration to greater equality has remained as very much a part of the core Labor promise right through those 130 years.
Frank, great to speak with you. Thank you very much for taking us through this 130-year wild ride through the life and times of the Australian Labor Party. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
Frank Bongiorno is the co-author with Nick Dyrenfirth of A Little History of the Labor Party. I'm Richard Feidler. Thanks for listening.
Okay, there you heard it. There you heard it from the best. They're doing all that and more, and it's crazy and whatever and all. God, we've seen it all. We've seen it all. God. I don't know. I'm just gonna put it in. If you like it, you seen it. Whatever. You intermix Hector. I don't care about subscribers. Sometime I don't care about thumbnails or whatever they said. Crazy, God. Subscribe to Intermix Hector. Love you. Kill the future. Love you. And YouTube. Subscribe. YouTube, Facebook, everything. AI, algorithm. Love you. Intermix Hector, subscribe. Love you.